thank you for being here. We know you have many, many choices to make every single morning, and we are always so very, very grateful that you choose to spend some of your time with us. Freshen up the coffee, whatever, another bowl of Fruit Loops or Golden Grams. Ooh, Golden Grams. Thank you for being here. There's a gifting goal today. Please consider participating in that. Also, please consider subscribing. If we can hit our next level of subscribers, we'll do another giveaway this Friday. Liking is loving, tap is clapping, sharing is caring. There is a live goal today as we are crowdfunded. So anything you'd like to do to support the channel, the various things that exist out there. One is green, two are blue. You know the drill. So again, thank you all for being here. Really, really appreciate that. A lot to get to today. A couple of things I want to mention first. Please consider joining our Discord. Please consider subscribing to our YouTube channel if you haven't yet, because that is a place to go, place to be, place to love, place to share. Many, many great connections have been made through our Discord and also through YouTube. Also, you can follow me on Twitch. You can follow me on Substack, all the various places as we look to expand. We're still in the market for someone. I know a lot of people have reached out. If there's anybody who would be interested in kind of being a de facto sort of social media advisor kind of thing as to what's the best way to integrate all that we're doing, please reach out to our mod community. And thank you in advance. Everybody, please keep tapping. Let's try to fight to get out of the FYP. Only 100 folks in here. We're usually up to 300 or 400 by now. So if you guys can help us out by tapping like crazy, you know the drill. All right. Well, thank you for being here. I appreciate you guys. We yesterday we talked about how let me do a couple of things first. Tomorrow's show, we're going to dedicate a big chunk of time to gerrymandering and redistricting, because you've heard threats from Greg Abbott that he's going to call a special session, and then that special session will include redrawing the maps. It is a tactic that the right has used, gerrymandering as opposed to redistricting, and I just did a quick little sort of research. I want to do some research as to what it would look like if the Democrats behaved the same way that the Republicans did, and what that would look like for the House majority in particular. We'll go over that tomorrow. Also, on Friday, very, very excited to talk about this. I'm going to be joined by the author of this book, Amira Barger. The Price of Nice. You can find the link to this book in the link tree that is in my bio. I'm not affiliated with that. I just wanted to promote it. Let me just read you Amira's bio, then you get an idea of why I'm excited to talk about this. This will be on Friday. Amira's on the West Coast, so don't exactly know yet of the showtime, but I will let you know. Amira is author, behavioral communication strategist, professor, and DEI practitioner. She's an executive vice president at one of the world's largest communications firms, where she advises global brands on equity, trust, and strategy. With nearly 20 years of experience spanning public health, corporate communications, and nonprofit leadership, Amira is also a professor at Cal State East Bay and a guest lecturer at UCSF. She's been recognized as a Woman of the Year in healthcare and named one of the top 50 women to watch. Whether she's writing, teaching, or advising the C-suite, Amira helps organizations move from performative to transformative. I've seen her videos. I follow her on TikTok now. We've chatted briefly. A lot of what she does is kind of what I do in different ways. I'm not nearly as accomplished and as well recognized as she is, obviously, but we share a brain. We were discussing that. So that'll be on Friday. That'll be Friday's show, and I'll announce more of that as we get a little bit closer. All right. So thank you guys again for being here today. Appreciate you all very much. I want to kind of let's just jump right in. As we were discussing yesterday, the story of Epstein is going to continue. There's reporting out from Wired magazine that the video was from the prison was doctored. We'll talk about that. We'll talk about that specifically. But as we mentioned yesterday, the challenge that the right has right now. By the way, if you haven't joined our team yet, please consider doing that. And again, don't forget about the gifting goal that helps with engagement to the FYP. And we are 10 subs away from our next targeted sub goal. If we hit that goal and maintain that number between now and Friday, then we'll do our giveaway for merch from the merch store on Friday. Okay, just 4. Right, we can ask that question. Wow, they're so delusional. They're so caught. The issue won't go away because of the how manipulated people like Just 4 have become. They are desperate to find whatever they can. So there's a post from Benny Johnson that I want to read that is wild. Let me see if I can find it. Hang on a second. This is the situation we now find ourselves in, right? Do I have it right here? I do. Okay, and then I'm gonna play some sound from the floor last night of the House as to what they're up to. All right, so this is what Benny Johnson says, and this is how desperate the right. Benny Johnson, in case you don't know, is one of those right-wing voices that has been funded by Russia state media. He's gone public recently saying, "What the fuck's going on, President Trump? I don't understand why you promised this. You're going to release this transparency, blah blah blah." Well, just a day later, this is what he writes. This is verified from Benny Johnson's X account. I cannot verify anything other than just that. Just got off the phone with top federal law enforcement. Just got off the phone with top federal law enforcement contact. The change in approach to Epstein has been dramatic. Expect more disclosures. Some very powerful people inside the administration are now pushing for a special counsel and a full press briefing on Epstein findings. Important to note, this drastic change happened after Charlie Kirk and a number of other powerful MAGA voices pushed back on the handling of the Epstein case this weekend at the Turning Point Conference. They were met with massive roars and applause from the 7,000 people gathered that could not be ignored. In short, our voices are being heard. Power to the people. To which I responded, I won't share that with you. So thank you, Swish Raiders. Appreciate you guys. So it's not quite going over very well, is it? We are in the midst of a subwave, guys. If you wouldn't mind helping us out there, appreciate that. So I share that with you because they are trying to find, the chute to pull the ripcord, because they don't know how to respond to the situation, as we discussed yesterday. So if you wanted to prove your credibility, right, and your sincerity around this, then, I don't know, if you had an opportunity to perhaps vote on whether or not you would like to have, do I have this? Yes, hang on a second. You could be transparent, right? You could say, we're going to be transparent on this. We're going to let the American people see. We're going to demand answers. So there was some activity on this in the House last night. Not that. That was cool, though. There was some activity on that very topic about allowing the House of Representatives get some information. Sorry, a little distracted. All right, so this is what happened. You know the name Ro Khanna. We've talked about Ro Khanna. Well, this was brought up last night with Lawrence O'Donnell.
House Rules Committee has just voted to block the release of the Epstein files. Joining us now, the member of Congress who forced that vote, Democratic Congressman Ro Khanna of California. Congressman, kind of give us the latest situation with the House Rules Committee.
Well, it's very disappointing. I had a very simple amendment that the full Epstein files should be released. It went for a vote to the House Rules Committee. Jim McGovern, who is the ranking member for House Democrats, made sure that all 4 Democrats voted for the release. Ralph Norman, a Republican, actually joined with the Democrats, saying that there should be a vote on the full release. Chip Roy didn't show up for the vote, but 7 other Republicans blocked it. So as of now, there is going to be no vote tomorrow, up or down vote on whether the Epstein files should be released.
And this was the first stage of your attempt to get a full...
Yeah, like why, right? Like why? So the argument is now what? Demanding transparency. Don't forget, many members of the Republican caucus in the House has been running around for years saying, release it, transparency, release it, going after these predators, release it. And now an opportunity to force the hand, because Ghislaine Maxwell, there's reporting that she is prepared to testify in front of Congress. If that's the case, again, here's the thing. This is what the right refuses to understand. So for people petitioning in the chat this morning to be TJ's replacement for my thruple, listen up. I'm speaking to you. We want the list produced because we want anyone and everyone on it that is affiliated with Jeffrey Epstein, that was part of these horrible, heinous endeavors against young girls and teens. We want all of them held accountable. Due process, jury, conviction or not. If convicted, then sentenced to spend time under the fucking jail. Every single one of them. Shouldn't be that difficult for you guys to grasp that. In fact, that's going to be a questionnaire, a question on the survey. If you'd like to be part of Facts' thruple, you would have to say that anybody on the Epstein list should be held accountable. Okay, thanks. $2 challenge is on, friends. Thank you, Dana. Appreciate you, friends. The $2 challenge is on. 455 people in here. You know, dollar here, dollar there. We'll blow our goal out. Thank you guys very, very much. So again, that's the whole point. If there's a list, because apparently now people are chirping and saying, "Why did the Biden administration release it?" Release what? There's no list. We were told there was no list, but then the president said there was a list. Then the president said there's no list. Then the president said the list was made by Obama and Biden and the Clintons and James Comey and John Brennan. So which is it? One way to find out would be to have the Department of Justice appear before Congress. Another way to do that would be to have Ghislaine Maxwell appear before Congress. Why are you afraid? I'm not. Let's go.
Vote by the House of Representatives to see a full recorded vote. Everyone could see how their member of Congress voted on this issue. And that's what was blocked by the Rules Committee, not allowing you to get to that stage on the floor. Why would it be important to have that recorded vote on the floor?
Well, in a very simple way, we should see whose side are you on. That's really what this Epstein file issue has become. It's not just about knowing who's being protected, the rich and the powerful, in terms of who had interaction with Jeffrey Epstein. It's the sense that people have that the government is too beholden to certain interests who have their thumb on the scale, and that they're not working for ordinary people. And what the Democrats are saying is we want to make sure that we get full justice here, that we get full transparency. And this may have been the first attempt that was blocked, but I'll tell you it's not going to be the last attempt. We already have Representative Vesey, who has a resolution. Leader Jeffries is saying that we're going to push for transparency here. And we can keep introducing these kind of amendments every week, every month, to force the Republicans to demand the release. And this is something.
And do that every week in the Rules Committee. Force that vote every single week. And if I were running their campaign and I was in charge of communication, I got a flash goal here. Let me do that. We need 40, whatever those are, like the hand heart things. Thank you. If I was running his campaign or any member of Congress, if I was on the Democratic campaign committee, I'd be like, every single day when you leave that chamber, we're gonna share the names of all the Republicans who voted against, and or Democrats that voted against having the list either revealed to us and or members of the Department of Justice, including Pam Bondi, come and take an oath and swear before us. Every single day I'd be doing it. Why the fuck not? Every day. Every day. Accountability. Everybody should want this to be released. Everyone. The right is terrified.
Something that many Republicans believe should happen, as was evidenced by Ralph Norman's vote.
The Elon Musk commentary on this situation continues. Elon Musk posted this after Donald Trump's long Jeffrey Epstein social media postings. Elon Musk said, seriously, he said Epstein half a dozen times while telling everyone to stop talking about Epstein. Just release the files as promised. Congressman, are you concerned about a possible precedent here that down the line, a few years from now, we could be talking about the release of some other federal criminal investigative file that you might think should not be released? Or is this a unique case? This is, after all, in the entire history of this country, we have exactly one president who had a convicted pedophile as a best friend.
F1 in the chat, please.
Lawrence, look, I think you raise a very thoughtful point, which doesn't surprise me. I mean, there's a reason you have DOJ policy saying you can't leak things about people before you charge them. You would not want a Justice Department that just arbitrarily started leaking things about people caught up in an investigation. But here you have a very unique situation. You have a...
Bro, it can't be very unique. I hate it when people do that. Something can't be very unique, okay?
President of the United States who promised the American people the release of these files. You have an attorney general who went on television and said that on her desk is a Epstein client list and that she's going to promise to release that to the American public. So now you have a question of trust. And I think what the president should do is say this is a unique circumstance that potentially involves governments of other countries, that involves potentially national security. And for a one-time issue, we're going to release it to have total transparency. We're going to protect the victims, but we're going to release it. And this is not precedent setting. It's simply doing what I and the attorney general promised the American people. And if they don't do that, they have a huge issue.
Exactly. All we're asking for is they do what they told us they were going to do. Why are the Republicans so afraid? I wonder why. And again, depending on the conspiracy thread you want to pull on, we're talking about, heads of state of other countries and members of the intelligence community. These are all the rumors. The one way to dispel, to get rid of the rumor, to dispel it, is to release the fucking list. Okay? So, all right. And then there's, as I mentioned briefly, there's reporting now. This is from Newsweek about Ghislaine Maxwell wanting to testify. Roger Stone, political ally of President Trump, has welcomed reports that Ghislaine Maxwell might be willing to testify to Congress about her ties to Epstein. In a post on X, Stone and Epstein's former associate said, quote, Trump has nothing, in a post on X, Stone said Epstein's former associate, Maxwell, quote, has nothing on Trump, pushing back on speculation that Maxwell's testimony could implicate the president. Why it matters? Epstein, wealthy financier, self-unalived, in jail August 2019, weeks after his arrest on trafficking charges. This case has assumed renewed significance after the Trump admin ordered a review of the case and said it would publish names and evidence about associates. However, in that memo, the FBI stated there is no client list and there'll be no more charges. This has triggered a backlash among those who want transparency about Epstein. Last Monday, DOJ also published an 11-hour prison video to support their conclusion that Epstein did take his own life in his jail cell, but some claimed a portion of the video was missing. Meanwhile, some called for Attorney General Pam Bondi to be fired. According to an anonymous source speaking to the Daily Mail, this is reported, according to an anonymous source speaking to the Daily Mail, Maxwell, who was convicted in 2022 over her links to Epstein's illicit activities, is serving a 20-year prison sentence, has expressed a willingness to testify before Congress about her experiences. Newsweek could not verify the report. The source reportedly told the publication, quote, despite the rumors, Ghislaine was never offered any kind of plea deal. She'd be more than happy to sit before Congress and tell her story. No one from the government has ever asked her to share what she knows. She remains the only person to be jailed in connection to Epstein. Well, Epstein was. And she would welcome the chance to tell the American people the truth. Okay. I'll make popcorn. Let's go. I fully embrace protecting the names of the survivors. I absolutely support that 100%, whatever it would require. I would also give survivors the opportunity to speak up if they wanted to as well, right? Voices should be heard. I just want that to be done. Yes, and yes, exactly, right? You're right. Why is she the only one in jail? It's a great question. Why is she the only one in jail? Who was she the fall woman for, right? So obviously we're going to continue to track that, but I'm really glad what Ro Khanna did by just saying, we're going to call this shit out every fucking day, every day. The problem is, unless you're in the majority, you can't initiate a hearing. Once a hearing is initiated on a particular topic, then members of the minority party in the House, the Democrats in this case, would then have the ability to call their own witnesses. But they can't get that hearing underway unless the GOP leadership approves. So we'll be watching this. So those of you who are represented by Republicans, depending on who they are, right? Why are you not asking them and demanding that they hold the Department of Justice accountable? That's what I'd like to see. Okay. I also wanted to share this story. I follow somebody named John Pavlovitz on Substack. I just like the way he writes. You can find your boy over on Substack as well. Not a lot of content there yet. Working on that. There's some content that I might ask you guys to subscribe behind a paywall, but that's a different conversation. We'll get there down the road. This is If the President is a P3DO. That's the title of the story. An open letter to Republican voters, Trump supporters, white evangelicals, and MAGA faithful. Dear Republican voters, Trump supporters, white evangelicals, and MAGA faithful, I'd like to ask you some questions, and I'd like to hear your honest responses. If the president is a P3DO, don't you want to know? If the person in the highest seat of power in our nation is a serial predator, isn't it important to bring that truth to the light? If our commander-in-chief committed abuse of minors for years, doesn't that matter to you? You see, I know how you might have responded to these questions before January the 20th, when we had a Democrat in the White House, because back then, your performative posturing never ceased. You were supposedly all about stopping the child groomers, punishing schmexual criminals, and eradicating human traffickers. And with the continually delayed release of the Epstein files, I sense your fierce moral stances suddenly becoming more malleable. Your hardline religious convictions coming up for debate, your once passionate sermonizing now softening. Are you against child groomers unless they have an R next to their names? Does sexual violence still sicken you if the perpetrator helps you build a theocracy? Are you exposing human traffickers unless they can supply you with Supreme Court seats? Because from where I'm standing, the rubber is meeting the road, and you're trying to take an exit ramp. It seems like you don't have the clarity of convictions you've always told yourself and the rest of us that you have. Look, I don't need you to agree with me politically or align with me theologically, but I was hoping we could find common ground in a base level of humanity that doesn't want our leaders to be child grapists. I thought that maybe we could cut through America's fierce tribal divide by agreeing that we should drag monsters who use their wealth to brutalize girls and young women into the light of accountability. If I were as devoted a Christian as you claim to be, I sure as hell wouldn't want to make the story of these crimes all go away so that I can go back to pretending I'm a follower of Jesus and morally policing the world, all while turning my head at the possibility that I voted for and still support a deviant monster. Boom. But what do I do? But what do I know? I'm over here on the supposedly godless, amoral left demanding the full and unedited release of these files because my morality is a fixed reality. It is not partisan, and it is not up for debate. I don't give a damn if these documents implicate someone I once respected or even voted for, because I want every vile pervert and predator to be exposed. I want justice for every child and woman who suffered at the hands of the wealthy and powerful. I believe the worth of a human being doesn't depend on the voting bloc they belong to. And yeah, if the president is a P3DO, if he is a serial predator, if he has abused girls and women, I damn well want to know because I want him to be accountable. And I want you to know because I want you to be held accountable for trying to turn away from the truth, for attempting to push it all under the rug for fear it might expose your hypocrisy. Most of all, I want to see if your cultic devotion will remain, even if you find out he is a very kind of filth you claim to be sickened by. And maybe that's why you don't want these files released, because you know the answer to that question. Prove me wrong, stand with me, demand the Epstein files be released, or tell me again who you think you are. That's it. That's the whole game. That's the whole game. Just release it. That was written by John Pavlovitz. He's a writer. I've been following John in different spaces. I feel like I met him one time too in Chicago. It may be a different person, but Anyway, that's on Substack. The title of it is Dear Republican Voters. Dear Republican, I'm sorry, the title of the article is, it's a letter to Republican voters. If the president is a P3DO, ... John Pavlovitz, Pavlovitz. I will put the link in the Discord, and you guys can do with it what you will. Every single day, friends, I want people like Ro Khanna and other members of the various committees, every single day when the C-SPAN cameras are on them, I want people to go public. They use their time to say, do you guys know that these 5 people, the Republicans who ultimately could pursue this, do you know these 5 people voted no? That they didn't want to pursue this. They didn't want to get the information to go public. We're all standing here saying, do it. And this is the question. This is how we force their hand, right? This is how, again, make America great this way, just blindly following whoever's telling them to follow. Once again, all we are asking, let me rephrase, all we are stating is that we want any and everyone connected to this to be held accountable. Period. Why is that so hard? I don't care if Clinton's on it. I don't care if Obama's on it. I don't give a flying fuck who's on it. I want every single one of them held accountable. Every single one of them. So what are you going to do when they are released? What do you mean, John? What are you going to do when they are released? Well, John, what? So are you saying now that there is a list, John? I'm confused by your statement. Like, it's weird. Like, I'm confused. I just sent you an invite, John. Maybe you can come up and talk to me real quick. Because I'm a little bit confused by your statement. What are we going to do when they're released? Well, that's what we want. We want the list released so we can hold people. What? Why do you want the list now? You guys are the one that ran on this. You guys, for 4 years, that's what we heard. That's what we heard. And release the list. I have never heard anybody on the left saying don't release it. Release the damn thing. Release it. Make it make sense. Remember how we went through this exercise yesterday? There's like 2 scenarios. One, there never was a list to begin with. Okay, and we know that that's not true, but that's one scenario. And I'm trying to get inside the mind of MAGA. There's a lot of room in here. There's a ton of room. I could park my motorcycle, the RV, could build a fishing camp, lots of room inside the mind of MAGA. But when you do find one little synapse firing, these are the decisions they're going to have to make. Either it's there was no list and the conspiracy theory was thrown out in their faces and they were lied to and now they're stuck, or there is a list and Trump's on it. I know that there's a list. You know that there's a list. The reason we know that there's a list is because Ghislaine Maxwell is in jail for trafficking. Okay, for those of you that are your red hats on really, really tightly, I need you to listen to this, okay? Ghislaine Maxwell is in jail for trafficking. What did she traffic? Or I should say, whom did she traffic? She trafficked young girls. Whom did she traffic those young girls to? That would be people. So therefore, there is a list or knowledge of people that Ghislaine Maxwell trafficked, along with Jeffrey Epstein, young girls to. So therefore, we know that there's a list. So it shouldn't be that complicated, right? So she knows everything. Great. I'm glad. If she knows everything, then let's get her up there. So these are the questions that you guys are all going to have to answer for yourself. Hold on a second. Let me just check something real quick. Okay. Don't forget about our gifting goal, friends. And again, as we're moving towards our subscriber goal, we can bang out another giveaway on Friday. And there is a $2 challenge going down. If you want to participate in the gift goal, you can do that because we are crowdfunded. Thank you guys very, very much. Okay. Let's do I want to, I mean, how do I approach this? I played that already for you guys. So let's do a couple things. I'm going to get into some of the, we've talked about this in sort of in different ways in the past about how susceptible by design MAGA voters are in particular. Like how, basically what I did is I kind of like, how does the lie become the truth? And all these, we've talked about all these things about the constant reiterating of messaging. You know, you blame this person, you blame that person, all these kinds of things. I'll get into that in a little bit. I want to talk now about some interesting polling. Now, I've shared with you guys in the past that polling from an electoral perspective is an inexact science, and I'm putting it mildly. It's because you never know when you poll someone and then whether or not they are intimidated by the question that they're asked, or is there too much time that's passed from when they were polled until they actually go to the voting booth and show up? So inexact science. Public opinion polling is basically sentiment, right? You're asking someone how they feel about something, and public opinion polling has always been a more accurate indicator, right? So in the past, I refer to Ipsos. I use YouGov. YouGov and Ipsos are two highly respected polls. Gallup and Pew, when they do their polling, again, highly respected, and these can all be verified, and they source everything properly. So I'm going to read you. This is wild because there's new reporting now about how the Trump administration is attempting to navigate through their losing support in a variety of areas. So they did a survey, and they asked the question, how Americans rate Donald Trump's handling of 52 issues. Okay, so without reading the whole list, I'll just summarize the story. This is from Reuters. This is from YouGov, also reported on by Reuters. So this is the story connected to the poll. Then I'll give you the statistics and the methodology on the polling in just a moment. Americans are more likely to disapprove than this was dated May 8th of 2025. Americans are more likely, so this is even before things got really bad. So he might be lucky on this one. Americans are more likely to disapprove than approve of President Trump's handling of dozens of issues. The survey measured opinions on 52 issues. Each respondent was asked about a random sample of 26 and found that 48 of the issues, Trump's net approval, meaning the share who strongly or somewhat approve of how he is handling the issue minus the share who disapprove, was negative. Among the 52 issues on the survey, Trump performs worst on inflation and prices. It's a negative 26 net approval. Similarly, the number one item when Americans are asked what is the most important issue to you, they say inflation and prices. So the most important issue to Americans, inflation and prices, is the category in which the president is just hemorrhaging. What I find even more interesting is the only areas, there's 4 categories where he's seen a positive improvement, where his net approval rating is positive. Those 4, anybody want to take a guess what those 4 are? You guys are the smartest chat on TikTok. You guys want to take a guess what the 4, okay, the 4 issues that he's still seen as favorably. Immigration is 1. That's correct. Yep, immigration is 1. That's right. Immigration. The border, correct. Not foreign policy. Nope. So crime's so there's 4. Crime is the highest, +9. Border security, national security, and immigration. Think about that. Think about the rhetoric that you constantly hear from the White House. Lawless blue cities. We have to defend America, the national security threats from Iran, blah, blah, blah. Secure the southern border. We went through that exercise yesterday. And then immigration in general. Those messages are what they ran on every single day. From that point down, even the trans issue, he's losing steam. It's leaning to the negative side. Democracy, relations with Israel, government spending, firearms, deportation, vaccines, refugee admissions, cybersecurity, free speech, education. the death penalty, DEI, foreign aid, AI, cryptocurrency, healthcare costs, Social Security, climate change, national debt, corruption, childcare, taxes, abortion, civil rights, women's rights, environmental regulations, cabinet appointments, consumer protection, healthcare, international alliances, housing, Elon Musk and Doge, jobs in the economy, labor unions, Medicare and Medicaid, relations with Ukraine, use of executive orders, foreign policy, relations with Russia, race relations, J6 offenders, tariffs and trade, presidential pardons, relations with Canada, federal workforce reductions, changes to geographic names, and inflation and prices. Every single one of those, he is now in the negative. And the last two changes to geographic names, people are like, this is stupid, dude. That's a negative 21. That's negative 21 shift, meaning that it used to be on the positive side. I'm sorry, no. It's negative in the approval ratings category. Right? So people disapprove. And then inflation and prices. Number one issue for the American voter, it's the same methodology from the poll. The number one issue, inflation and prices, and he is way the hell upside down. So this is the methodology behind the poll. So let me find that for you. All right, I have it right here. This is the poll that they use to generate the data that I just shared with you. These are the interviewing dates were April the 25th to the 29th of 2025 through May 2nd of 2025. So just a couple months ago. U.S. citizens age 18 and over. Respondents were selected from YouGov's opt-in panel to be representative adult U.S. citizens. The sample was weighed according to gender, age, race, education, 2024 presidential vote, 2020 election turnout and presidential vote, baseline party identification and current voter registration status. Demographic weighting targets come from the 2019 American Community Survey. 2024 presidential vote at a time of weighting was estimated to be 48% Harris and 50% Trump. So more Trump voters participated in this based on the ranking. Baseline party identification is the respondent's most recent answer given around November 8th, 2024, and is weighted to be the estimated distribution at that time. 2,220 respondents, plus 2% adjusted weighting for margin of error, web-based interviews, 85 questions. And they took the top 26. So, I don't know. I wouldn't think that would be a pretty. I don't think that's going to be. That's going to go over very well. You know, the Epstein stuff, horrible. You know, the violations of constitutional norms, horrible. Human rights violations, absolutely horrible. It's going to come down to the price of eggs. It always does. It always does. It always comes down to pricing, especially if you look at the data. Number one, most important issue for American citizens, and it's not even close. And then that is the category in which he is doing the worst. So think about the cycle, right? We see prices go up. So right, I think inflation is up tiny bit. It's continued to go up, by the way. 2.3, 2.4, estimates are between 2.5 and 2.7. We should get the results actually today. They usually come out on the 15th. We'll keep watching that as to what the inflation rate would be. But the problem is that he has convinced his voters that he's going to bring prices down. Now gas is not an indicator because there's always a seasonal element connected to gas. And agricultural products, eggs and things like that are very, they're susceptible to avian flu, other things. There are things that are climate related, all kinds of things. But generally speaking, baseline prices are up. That's what inflation is. So don't worry, I'm going to lower your prices. No, the only time where you're going to see prices lower would be if the inflation rate goes below zero. And the last time that happened was post-great market crash in 2008, 2009, fueled by Republican deregulations, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So, yeah, we'll talk more about that in a second. I do have a request.
What's going on?
You can unmute.
All right, my question is about. So we're getting reports on Maxwell wanting to speak in front of Congress.
Yep.
Do you think that's going to happen? Do you think they're going to be able to stop that? I heard that Trump sent lawyers to the Supreme Court to try to get that stopped.
Yeah,
there's a lot
of course they are
going on.
Of course, they're going to try to do everything. They're going to try to, and don't forget, there was already reporting about how during in the biography that Michael Wolff wrote about Trump that he'd already reached out and considered pardoning Ghislaine Maxwell back in 2020. He'd already considered doing that. So now, all of a sudden, don't be surprised. Keep watching this. They'll be reporting on this. If she is suddenly offered a pardon, come on, right?
Yeah. So do you think they're going to beef up her security? Because like the Epstein stuff is really, the Jeffrey stuff is really weird.
Yeah. It is. Well, she's in a low security facility now. She gets access to yoga and Pilates and good food and things like that. So I hope they keep her safe, obviously. But it should be telling for everybody that if she wants to testify, if the reporting is accurate, again, I'm only reading to you what's been reported. I cannot confirm nor deny, only what's been reported. And now we know Republican members of Congress are refusing to hold a floor vote because that would expose their members. Because those people in the House that would vote to not demand answers, you have to wonder what they're up to.
Yeah, I'm sure if she speaks to anybody at any point, that's Trump's done, just done.
Yeah, I mean, lots of people would be done. Lots of people would be, no doubt. No doubt. Anything else this morning, sir? Hello? You too. Thank you very much. I guess we'll see. I mean, that's the whole... We'll see. I mean, I don't give a shit what happens to Ghislaine Maxwell. Who gives a fuck? I'd like her to testify. Aside from that, that'd be my goal. Everybody keep tapping and sharing, please. Slim Lang, how are you today?
I'm fine. I did not mean to. Ask up, but hello. Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you for being here. Anything else? Anything you wanted to share?
No, I watch you every morning, and I really appreciate all your information, and I thank you for being here every day.
Thank you very much. I appreciate you. You have a good day out there. Be safe. That's nice. That's very nice. Everybody keep tapping and sharing. Don't forget, we have our gifting goal, and it's the $2 challenge. It's been thrown down. Mustache, how are you?
Hey, good. How you doing, man?
Fine. Thank you. What's on your mind?
The caller before her, kind of echoing what he's saying. Do you think that Trump, in your opinion, will be in office a year from today? Because I don't think he will be.
A year from today, do I think he will be in office? A year from today. Let me ask a qualifying question. Are you saying that he'll be impeached and removed?
Yes.
Or another reason?
Impeached. I think he'll be impeached.
He may be I don't think so. No.
I don't think so.
No, because a year from today would be before the midterms. So if you ask me that question in December or January of 2027, that might be a different answer. But I don't. There's no. They're all cowards. The Republican Party, MAGA, they're all cowards. They will never do that.
I mean, it seems like there's a lot of. There's a corruption in the Republican Party always, but it seems like literally every day there's something that comes out over the 6 months. I've never seen a 6 months presidency like this ever.
Oh, I know. I hear that, man. I get. I mean, we'll see. I don't know. I mean, that's why I asked the question. His health issues are one thing I would. I mean, he just looks awful. He looks small. He looks diminished. He looks like he doesn't have that. I mean, there was one. If I were to give him credit, if I were to be objective, he had a great way to motivate a crowd. Really good on his feet. Really good in front of an audience, even though it's lies and bullshit. That's just not there now. He just not there. Watch the press conferences. Watch the meetings. He's slumped over.
Oh yeah.
I don't know if he'll make. Yeah, I don't know if his health will get him there. So.
I mean, his cognitive decline on every day.
Oh, it's crazy.
On display. The whole the soccer fiasco this weekend, where he didn't leave the stage, was bizarre.
I know.
One of the bizarre
I agree.
things I've ever seen. I'm an avid soccer man. I've never seen that in any tournament where that happens. It was weird. It was almost like he didn't realize what he was doing when he was dancing on stage with the team.
I know. It's like, get the hell out of there, dude. I know. I agree.
The players were
brutal.
like, dude, what are you doing? But yeah,
I know.
I'll let you go, man. I appreciate you, dude.
You got it. Thanks a lot. Have a good day. See you later.
See you, dude.
Well, we'll see. I mean, it's an interesting question. Like, I don't know if it's, I don't know if he'll, I just don't think there's enough courage in the Republicans, because that would, again, leading right up to the midterms. Ask me that question in January, and then I might have a different answer for you. I don't know. I don't know. We'll see. It's a fair question to ask, but we'll see. Everybody keep tapping and sharing. Thank you guys very much.
Good morning, Steve.
Good morning, friend. How are you?
Not too bad, thank you. I have a couple of theories, and I want to preface them by saying they are my theories, not, there's nothing legal that defines this. But I think because Maxwell is British, I think that she's unlikely to get a pardon no matter what happens in this. I think that she will offer to speak in front of Congress in exchange for being transferred to a British prison. I think that's more likely to happen than her being pardoned. I think the only way that a pardon could come without any kind of legal blocking is if there were substantial evidence that she was also groomed, that she was also a victim. I don't think that there's any way that she would just be released, walk around on the streets again. I don't see that happening.
Yeah, I mean, that's interesting, but so since she's in jail in the U.S., though, she'd have to be extradited. I think we have an extradition agreement with your country, so I don't think that would be complicated, but that would require the federal government to cooperate.
Precisely.
Yeah, so I just don't see that happening. That's the issue. I mean, this is the scary part, right? And I think you and I have discussed this before, and we've discussed this a lot in the space about how conspiracy theories can just take off, right? And we have to be careful. Mm-hmm. We really, really have to be careful with this because there could be conspiracies around, that it was always the plan all along to keep her. She's going to expose the deep state, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And, conspiracies about, the reason that she's giving a pardon is because she's under threat from foreign entities, and the safest place she can be is in prison. Blah, 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 blah. Yeah. So I don't know.
Yeah, that's why I want to be really careful saying these are my speculations and not based in fact.
So hold on, guys. A little bit of breaking news. Inflation rate is up. CPI just announced. 2.7%. So it's up from 2.5% in June. So it continues to rise. So yeah. Hang on one second. Let me just confirm this. Yeah. So the U.S. inflation rate rose 0.3% in June. The annual rate climbed to 2.7%. That's up from 2.3% in April and 2.4% in May. Food, energy, and rent all playing a big role in the increase in June. Core inflation, which excludes food and energy, rose 2.9% in June. So there you go. There you go.
Interestingly, your country had the best post-coughing thing recovery in the G7, and our inflation swept up in that time, and now ours is going down and leveling out a bit, and yours keeps going up. I wonder what happened to make that change.
I know, interesting, right? Yeah, I like your theory. It's an interesting theory. I like your theory, but we'll see. It's a little complicated. Yeah. I appreciate you joining us today, friend. Always good to talk to you.
Thank you for having me.
See you later. Nice. Moon and back. You said the New York Times just reported that gas prices haven't been this slow since 2021. Okay, well, I don't know what you're getting. So I know it's interesting. It's a tactic to try to say the New York Times. Well, the New York Times wouldn't be a primary source, but you know what is? That would be the EIA, which is the U.S. Energy Information Administration, and they track gas prices. So we can look at this, as a matter of fact. We can look. So 2021, interesting. In 2021, the price of gas in January was $2.42 a gallon. The price of gas in February was $2.58 a gallon. The price of gas in March was $2.89 a gallon. The price of gas in April was $2.94 a gallon. And in fact, the price of gas all the way through the year until September was lower than it is today. The price of gas in June, U.S., all formulas and all grades, was $3.27 a gallon. In fact, it's up from Inauguration Day. So moon and back. I don't know where you're getting your information, but you might want to do a little bit more research. A primary source. You go to the source. You don't just allow the burning of sage or whatever. Anywho. So thanks for playing. So that's interesting. So again, just in tariffs are starting to raise prices. U.S. inflation rate rose 0.3% in June. The annual rate climbed to 2.7%. That's up from 2.3% in April and 2.4% in May. This is the issue that we're now going to run. This is from the Bureau of Labor. Okay. So this is the issue we're now going to, no, my source is not AAA. My source is the EIA, the Energy Information Administration, which is the same group that's been reporting on it for decades, Jeff. It's the same one. Okay. It's the same source that I use every day when I talk about gas prices. Okay, inflation did not fall. Inflation is up, and here's the issue now that we have. Right? Don't forget, because there will be a response. Everybody will keep an eye on Lie Social, because I'm sure that there's going to be a response. In fact, there may be one already. Who knows? Let's see. Not yet. This news is just out. Not yet. Okay, we'll keep an eye on it. Well, instead of the 9.1, so slim. Oh God. I'm going to send you an invite. I just want to have a conversation with you. I'm just curious about a couple things. I'm really curious about that. If you wouldn't mind just accepting my invite request, because I just have a quick question for you. It's really simple. It's a really simple question. Tell me what Joe Biden did to cause inflation to go to 9.1%. Just tell me. Just tell me. And tell me what then Joe Biden did to lower inflation to lower than it is now when he left the presidency. Because when he left the White House, it was 2.3%. So I want to know what he did to lower it. And what did Donald Trump do to raise inflation from 2.3% to 2.7%? So maybe you can answer that question for me. Yeah, if I were you, I wouldn't accept the invite either. Just saying. So that's interesting news. We'll track it. Okay. So there's still more to talk about in regards to the response in Texas. There's a lot of finger pointing. There's a lot of the Inflation Reduction Act, tariffs on Russian oil. The Inflation Reduction Act. Yeah, you're right, Van. The inflation went down, actually. Inflation went down after the Inflation Reduction Act. Thank you for sharing that. There's still a lot of finger pointing coming from members of DHS in particular in regarding the response to or lack thereof. I'm going to play some sound for you from Kirsty Noem, who's gone on the road recently trying to save her reputation for whatever reputation she may or may not have had. Here's another reminder, and I was reading about this, that I've talked about my daughter's journey with cancer and how federal dollars, because of the unique type of cancer that she had, she was part of a COG study group, and a lot of the funds for that scientific research study came from federal dollars. So when there's cuts to the tune of 40% made in cancer research, reducing the budget available down to $4 billion, right? One in three people in our country, 1 in 3 chance of getting cancer. Okay, a 1 in 3 chance. You have a 0.0000001% chance of having an issue with an undocumented immigrant. But we're okay cutting cancer funding by 40% and increasing ICE's budget to $170 billion. I'll just leave that right there. Okay, so let's listen to Kristi Noem and her bullshit. So she was on with Kristen Welker over the weekend, attempting to address some of the issues that certainly came about from her lack of response. And I just want you to listen to a couple of things.
Times is reporting that thousands of calls from flood victims to FEMA call centers went unanswered in the middle of this ongoing disaster because you didn't renew contracts to keep call center staff in place until nearly 1 week after the floods. Why did it take so long to extend those contracts?
It's just false. Those contracts were in place. Nobody,
it didn't take 5 days.
No employees were off of work. Every one of them was answering calls. So false reporting, fake news, and it's discouraging. It's discouraging that during this time when we have such a loss of life and so many people's lives have turned upside down, that
hold on, sorry.
people are playing politics with this because the response time was immediate. And if you talk to anyone in Texas that was there, that was a part of this operation, they would say the federal government and President Trump immediately responded.
Just to be very clear, on July 7th, 15.9% of calls were answered. I mean, does that concern you that only 15% of calls were answered? These are people in a desperate state. FEMA, often the first call that they make, only 15% were answered on July 7th, several days after the floods.
These contracts were in place and those people were in those call centers and they were picking up the phone and answering these calls from these individuals. So that report needs to be validified. I'm not certain it's accurate.
Validified is not a word. Validated, verified, yes. Validified is not a word.
And I'm not sure where it came from. And the individuals who are giving you information out of FEMA, I'd love to have them put their names behind it, because the anonymous attacks to politicize this situation is completely wrong.
Okay, that's interesting that you would say that, Kristi, because we spend a little bit of time doing a little bit of research on our show here. So let's talk about that in response time. So I'm going to go and I'm going to address what she had just stated. Hang on one second. I pulled the timeline. All right, hold on one second. I have it. Stand by. Hang with me. I thought I had it. I do. Hold on a second. Everybody keep tapping and sharing. Appreciate you. All right. The specific question was about staffing. So did I pull that from a different source? Where did I put it? Well, again, I know it because I've read through it. There were contracts that were not renewed, and often people were either given early retirement or forced to leave. Because these contracts, Abbott said he approved ICE deporting the volunteers from Mexico. That's an AI issue. We can talk about that in a moment. But yes, the information that Kristen Welker provided is accurate. That by the time the fourth or fifth day, because those contracts were not renewed, there were 15% of calls answered compared to what it normally is between 75 and 85%. So it is a direct result. So Kristi Noem is sitting there lying to people, which again is part of the game that they're going to play. I don't know how we can escape the fallout of this misinformation, especially when it's the blatant lies. Like I say, make America great is this way. I want people to realize something that is incredibly obvious to most, obvious to you guys because you're the smartest chat on TikTok. The issue is they are never going to take any accountability for anything. Never. They are never going to accept any responsibility. Kristi Noem just lied to people. She lied to people, and she said, "Ask people on the ground." We did. We've played the sound of people on the ground saying, "Where the fuck is the federal response? Where is it?" For years, all we heard was the Biden administration failing to provide support and services, based on through FEMA. Well, I've got some reporting on that. Good morning. How are you?
Good. How about you?
Doing fine, thank you. What's on your mind?
All right, two things. First off, I just want to say, I've been on this show before, and I've been watching for a long time. I love how you keep on adding more aspects to your show, the backgrounds, the sounds, all that stuff. So it's like every day it's a new thing with you, so which is awesome. Thank you. Makes sense. But my question was going back to the Maxwell thing. If she was convicted of trafficking, why aren't we going after the stuff that was used? There's got to be a list somewhere that they used to indict her. Like, shouldn't that be? And
I know.
Clearly, there was proof because it went to a grand jury. They arrested her. They tried her. They convicted her. Where is all that information? How come that's not public knowledge?
Well, it wouldn't be public because I'm sure, like, victims' names. It depends on what it is. Not everything from a court hearing is subject to FOIA and or is available to the public, depending on lots of things. Now, you could make the argument to say that for something like that sensitive to have victims' names on it, I can understand why it would not be released publicly without redaction.
Right.
But that's the whole point, right? Obviously, they had information. Don't forget what she was convicted of. She was convicted of trafficking, which means that she was trafficking victims, survivors in this case, to people. Those people would be the clients. So therefore, there is a client list. It's just logic. It tells you that, right? Yeah.
Maybe if they put the list underneath the pizzeria, the Republicans would want to see it.
Yeah, good point. Yeah, it's a really good point.
But
go for it.
That was my question. I've been sitting here this morning thinking about it, going, they got to be here somewhere.
They are there. They're definitely there. That's the whole point. That's why we want the information that's why we want it to go public. I don't think it's a lot to ask. I mean, nobody should be complaining about this. We want the information to be public. Simple. Just get it done. I appreciate your support of the show. Thanks for being here, friend.
Yeah.
Have a good day. See you later. Don't we just want it done? We just want it done. It's just, yeah. Good morning, Mackenzie. Yeah, there yet. Got to pay him to care. Okay, pay who to care? Got to pay him to care. Mackenzie, it looks like you're timing out, friend. If you want to request again, I'll bring it right back up. Okay, so a lot of this has to do with criticism that fell to the Biden administration during their presidency in regards to FEMA. So like we've talked about this before, there's now directions, obviously, to eliminate FEMA. We got the Supreme Court supported Trump's dismantling of the Department of Education. We'll get into that in just a moment. But I want to do a little bit of a comparison, right? So I asked Grok. It's funny because I don't spend a ton of time with AI just because it's personal because, I'm a writer. I write for a living. And although I still feel like there's an element to AI that doesn't add any sort of flower, it's just basically it's very what I would call a descriptive, boring white paper kind of style of writing. So anyway, I asked Grok to do a little comparison. I said, how did the Biden administration and FEMA respond to disasters during the Biden presidency? Simple question, right? Because I'm like, all right, so what are all the lies that were told? So there were key disasters that happened during the Biden administration, natural disasters. Hurricane Fiona in 2022 in Puerto Rico. All right. Biden issued a state of emergency on September the 18th, the day after the serious nature of the event, activating FEMA support across all 78 municipalities. I'm sorry, the day before the event. FEMA dispatched water, meals, generators, and tarps, millions of liters and meals alongside local and federal teams. In Hawaii, Maui, Lahaina. Biden mobilized all available federal assets, Navy, Coast Guard, DOD, and National Guard support for evacuation and rescue. FEMA dispatched the urban search and rescue teams, mortuary units, and provided the $700 disaster welfare assistance per person, which is, again, the only amount that they can give short term. That's immediate, $700 per household. Hurricane Helene and Milton. This was the ones in particular in North Carolina specifically, where all of the right wing was jumping in saying the Biden administration didn't do a damn thing. Actually, before I go on to that one, the Hawaii wildfires in Maui and Lahaina. Do you guys remember this story? And I was like, wasn't there something that Kristi Noem said during that time? Noem claims that 1 in 6 survivors of the Lahaina wildfires had to trade sexual favors for supplies. That's what she said. Homeland Security Secretary suggested this was, again, in response to the Lahaina wildfires in an attempt to try to deflect her incompetence onto somebody else. Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem on Wednesday last week suggested the Federal Emergency Management Agency, or FEMA, response to the 2023 Lahaina wildfires were so poor that 1 in 6 survivors had to trade sexual favors in exchange for basic supplies. A reference to a report on female Filipino fire survivors that one of the authors says is a gross manipulation of their work. After the wildfires in Maui, residents voiced concerns that every FEMA employee that they spoke with had different answers, said Noem. None of them had conversations that resulted in getting assistance that was helpful or any clarity of their situation. The situation in Lahaina was so bad that 1 in 6 survivors were forced to trade sexual favors, other favors, for just basic supplies. In response to Politico's question about where the stats came from, the DHS sent a May press release containing a link to the report. The study conducted by Taguana, which describes itself as a Filipino feminist disaster response organization based in Hawaii, surveyed 70 female Filipino fire survivors and found that 16% of those surveyed, roughly 1 in 6, engaged in some form of survival in exchange for basic necessities post-disaster. The study found that women had survival sex with a landlord, an employer, family members, friends, and acquaintances. But there's more concern about the gross manipulation of using the statistic to do the opposite of what the report calls for. FEMA did not immediately respond to a request for comment. DHS argued in May that the press release, the study found that FEMA's horrific neglect and mismanagement under the Biden administration. Right-wing think tanks saying that this is what happened. The job of remaking this agency is not nearly as simple as it should be, said Noem. Again, blatant lies. She was talking about how the Filipino community in Hawaii, there are a lot of members of the community that are sex workers. Okay? Not that they were selling favors to get disaster supplies. This is how dangerous information like that is. Can you imagine being so fucking desperate right now to save your ass that that's what you want to state? Yeah, the data is right. 16% of that community are sex workers. Not that they were trading their services for disaster supplies. Okay, back to our list. This is under the Biden administration. Hurricane Helene and Milton, Southeast and Midwest. Massive federal funding. FEMA approved $408 million in individual and $331 million in public assistance. Combined federal support of $1.2 billion for Helene and for Milton. Deployments included 5,600 federal personnel, 11.5 million meals, 12.6 million liters of water, generators, and tarps. And don't forget, governors, Republican governors in and around those areas were all grateful for the federal response. The only people complaining about it were the people that Trump told them to complain. Remember, you had the Gravy Seals in the back of their trucks, firearms ready. Anybody trying to come and take our stuff? What is if there was no stuff, then what were you protecting? Right? Yeah, have the flood victims in Texas received their $700 yet? I don't think so. The Marshall Fire in Colorado. Biden declared major disaster aid and FEMA was activated to support firefighters and recovery efforts. Southern California wildfires before Biden left office. Directed the DOD, the Navy helicopters, multi-state firefighting crews to assist the California fire. Pre-Biden, it continued the BRIC program, B-R-I-C, FEMA initiatives and funding, provided $5 billion in resilience grants since 2020, praised for enhancing disaster preparedness, eviction prevention insight. FEMA aid reduces evictions by 16% and stabilizes emergency credit, suggesting powerful economic containment efforts. Climate resilience push. In June 2021, Biden met with FEMA and emergency teams to gear up for escalating extreme weather due to climate change. Local and state coordinations remain vital, with FEMA working with state responders and NGOs, for example, the Red Cross, local volunteers at every event. Think about that. In June 2021, in advance of hurricane season, right? Summer flood season, the Biden administration met with FEMA and emergency teams to find out, do you have what you need? What does the Trump administration do? We're cutting funding. We're cutting funding for NOAA. We're cutting funding for the National Weather Service. We're cutting funding for FEMA. Kristi Noem wants FEMA to go away and have the burden passed to the state. There is no clearer separation between the two approaches to natural disasters. Joe Biden and his administration out ahead of it. Donald Trump and his administration doesn't give a fuck about it. Okay. Praise and criticism. Mostly praised. Hurricane responses in the south and southern northeast, California wildfires, southeast United States received largely positive reviews, including from Republican governors and mayors. Joe Biden. Criticism is backlash. This is now. Texas floods, July 2025. FEMA blame for unanswered calls. 2/3 dropped. We know that. 2/3 of their calls dropped. Withheld contract renewals under DHS Secretary Noem's policy, leading to public criticism. Remember we reported on this? $100,000 is what she put. Anything above $100,000 needed her signature. FEMA was frozen because she did not sign the paperwork. We're talking billions of dollars that FEMA usually funds to help areas affected by disaster, and they put the cap on 100,000. Of course they weren't going to be able to move. So that's direct criticism of Kristi Noem and her department. And then the Lahaina wildfires aftermath, DH Secretary used survivor reports to attack FEMA, but findings were contested by report authors, the one we just went through. Congressional Republicans and Trump-supporting state officials called for reducing FEMA's role, favoring state control and blocking grants. Played you guys that sound from Kerrville, Texas. People saying, if you take money from the Biden administration, you're getting in bed with Satan. We're not going to take that communist money. They had money, millions of dollars offered, and they didn't do anything with it. Instead, they funded law enforcement. Your votes have consequences. No one deserved to die in those floods. No one. But you could have prevented it. Your votes, your rhetoric, your bullshit, your lies could have prevented it. Okay. So let's compare. What I asked for was, hold on a second. The next question I asked, comparison of FEMA's performance under Biden versus Trump. Again, I'm using Grok. I figured I don't know enough about the various platforms. I know that it's Elon Musk, so I figured we're going to use his. So this is the overall grade and the performance. So we're going to give you a couple of categories. So the overall grade, Trump from 2017 to 2021 gets a C+ to a B-. Biden from 2021 to 2025 gets a B+ to an A-. Disaster readiness under Trump, often reactive, slow staffing, underfunded. Under Biden, proactive planning, climate focused. Major crises under Biden, under Trump, Hurricane Maria, Harvey, Irma, California wildfires, and COVID. Under Biden, it was Hurricane Fiona, Ian, Helene, Maui fires, floods, and COVID. Equity and access. Under the Trump administration, criticized for slow, unequal response, especially in Puerto Rico. Under Biden, stronger emphasis on equity, underserved regions, focusing on underserved regions. Public communication under Trump, often confusing or politicized. Example, Sharpie Gate. Thank you, Grok. Forgot all about that one. And then under Biden, clearer data-based updates, though not perfect. Of course. Climate integration. Under the Trump administration, downplayed, scrubbed climate from FEMA planning documents. Under Biden, integrated climate resilience into FEMA priorities. Staffing and funding under Trump, key FEMA roles unfilled, disaster funds sometimes diverted, for example, to ICE under Biden, record funding, FEMA fully staffed under DHS. And then public perception. Trust declined under Trump, especially after Maria and COVID. Under Biden, mostly favorable, but criticism over Texas flood, Maui aid rollout. That would not be under Biden. That would be under Trump, actually. But here's some notable examples and responses. Hurricane Maria, 2017. Under Trump, FEMA severely delayed aid to Puerto Rico. Remember the famous paper towel tossing. Trump publicly downplayed the death toll, which was estimated around 3,000, and infamously tossed paper towels at survivors. Supply mismanagement left millions without power or clean water for months. Hurricane Ian, Fiona, and Helene under Biden from 2022 to 2024. FEMA pre-positioned supplies, deployed rescue teams quickly, and released billions of dollars in aid. Biden made direct visits, declared major disasters early, and coordinated with local state governments. Again, this is under Grok. Grok did this, okay? So, but now I'm sure Grok, because Trump is now doesn't like Elon anymore, now I'm sure we can't trust Grok. Don't forget, what AI does is it gives an evaluation based on what it reviews. So it's citing sources in this of the data. It just consolidates it. That's what it does. So everything that I've read, these are sourced, okay? C-19 pandemic, 2020 under Trump. FEMA played a support role, but leadership was confused by inconsistent messaging between CDC, DHS, and White House. Trump's public denial of severity undercut FEMA's ability to communicate risks. Under Biden, FEMA helped coordinate vaccine distribution and set up mass vaccination centers, a role widely praised in the early days. Key differences in philosophy. Federalism, Trump's approach. Preferred state-led responses, FEMA was often backup. Biden approach, strong federal leadership, FEMA leads on site. This is a real question to this is a federalism debate. And we can have this conversation objectively, right? We can have this conversation objectively. Do you believe in more power to the state? Now be careful what you wish for, because you can make an argument, right? If that's where we're headed, 25 states go one way, 25 states go another way. We know where the money comes from. We know where the brain power comes from. We know where the education comes from. We know where the innovation comes from. We know where the GDP comes from. That would be blue states. So if you want to put the power in the hands of every state, then red states are going to have to figure this out, which is exactly the argument against federalism. Because red states, by and large, in our country need the blue states to fund them, to fund their governments, because they can't do it on their own. So if you want to say, okay, federal disaster response, you don't want any more federal money? Okay, that's fine. No problem. You're on your own. Good luck with that. Climate disasters. Under the Trump administration, downplayed linked to climate change. Under Biden, emphasized climate readiness and resilience. Spending priorities under Trump. Budget cuts proposed, disaster funds diverted. We saw it in 2017, the first administration, and obviously we're seeing it again now. Under Biden, boosted the FEMA budget and BRIC investments. Communication style. Under Trump, politicized, often contradictory. No shit. Under Biden, emphasized technical updates and disaster briefings. So these are the public trust rankings, right? 2018 under Trump, when it came to FEMA, the administration, I should say, the respondents, how people viewed these agencies, FEMA in particular, under each administration, okay? So 2018 under Trump, 45% approval rating. 2020 under Trump dropped to 38%, primarily due to the C-19 response. 2022 under Biden, 61% of people approved. Strong early response on climate focus on disasters, and in 2024, dropped slightly to 56%, but still, criticism over select flood and fire responses. That came from Gallup, Kaiser Family Foundation, and Pew. So once again, the data tells us that the Biden administration certainly handled national disasters significantly better, and it's not even close. And it wasn't even necessary. Because don't forget, you cut FEMA's budget under the Trump administration the first time. You cut it significantly, okay? You cut it. You blamed the Biden administration for FEMA's failures, even though FEMA didn't fail. The Biden administration not only had to rebuild budgetary items for FEMA and appropriate monies for FEMA in disasters because the Trump administration cut it, they also prioritized state and federal responses. Do you have an issue with that, Aaron? Do you not agree? You can request, we can talk about it. So, and we don't forget, as a reminder, hold on a second. I want to remind you guys of something, because this is from Project 2025, okay? Just going to read this real quickly to you because it's important in case I don't want to lose sight of this. All right, so mandate for leadership, the conservative promise. National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration. Break up NOAA. This is on page 674 of the Mandate for Leadership. The single biggest Department of Commerce agency outside of decennial census years is the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, or NOAA, which houses the National Weather Service, National Marine Fisheries Service, and other components. NOAA garners $6.5 billion of the department's $12 billion annual operational budget and accounts for more than half of the department's personnel in non-decadal census years. NOAA consists of 6 main offices: NWS, the National Oceanic Service, Oceanic and Atmospheric Research, the National Environmental Satellite Data and Information Service, the National Marine Fisheries Service, and the Office of Marine and Aviation. Together, these form a colossal operation that has become one of the main drivers of climate change alarm industry, and as such is harmful to future U.S. prosperity. This industry's mission emphasis on prediction and management seems designed around the fatal conceit of planning for the unplannable. That is not to say NOAA is useless, but its current organization corrupts its useful functions. It should be broken up and downsized immediately. Okay, and guess what? That's exactly what they're doing. But that's right. That's right. I completely forgot. Trump administration has nothing to do with Project 2025. I completely forgot about that. Yeah, I don't know. It must be fake news. Wild though, right? Wild how these things happen. All right. Trump's FEMA response was criticized for slow response, politicization, and climate denial, especially after disasters like Maria and C-19. Biden's FEMA improved planning, equity, and climate integration while still facing challenges in overwhelmed regions and political backlash from GOP states. Why? Why was there backlash from GOP states? You're right. It's an open book test. Why? Why was there backlash? You guys know the answer. Backlash from Republican states, because that's the echo chamber that Trump wanted these people to get their news from. The same states that were getting support from the Biden administration. Do you ever hear Joe Biden say, I'm going to cut off funding to Texas because they didn't vote for me? Did you ever hear him say, I'm going to eliminate FEMA access and preparedness to Florida because they didn't vote for me? Don't forget, Trump promised to stop federal funding in response to the California wildfires because he didn't like Gavin Newsom. Okay. So then let's talk about the critical needs assistance, which is the $700 from FEMA, right? A one-time emergency payment issued to survivors of major disasters to help cover immediate needs like food, water, prescriptions, and infant formula. $700 per household, not per person, to provide rapid cash assistance for urgent life-saving needs before long-term aid can be delivered. Eligibility must be in a designated disaster area under a federal declaration, okay? Must apply, you're right. Excuse me, must apply for FEMA assistance and confirm essential need and displacement. Okay, that's it. That's what it is. Did this happen under both Trump and Biden? Under Biden, yes. The $700 CNA payment has been widely used under President Biden. Maui wildfires. CNA payments were issued to survivors displaced by the catastrophic Lahaina fire. Hurricanes Ian, Fiona, and Helene from 2022 to 2024. FEMA distributed $700 payments to qualifying families within days of landfall. And then FEMA under Biden emphasized speed and equity, pushing early disbursement to those in shelters or low-income areas. Under Trump, yes, but consistently and often slower or more limited. But less consistently and often slower or more limited. Hurricane Laura 2020. CNA was issued in some parishes of Louisiana, but many survivors complained of long wait times or confusion about eligibility. Hurricane Maria 2017. CNA was technically available but delayed and poorly communicated. Many in Puerto Rico didn't receive it at all, contributing to widespread criticism of FEMA's handling. Category, Trump versus Biden. Payment timing. Under the Trump era, delays, common, distribution uneven. Under Biden, faster deployment within days in some cases. Communication under Trump, confusing eligibility, low awareness. Under Biden, more visible and promoted. Under Trump, use in major disaster areas, very sporadic. For example, during Laura and during Harvey. Under Biden, regular use in major disaster areas, in major climate-related disasters. Equity focus. Under Trump, limited targeting of vulnerable groups. Under Biden, prioritized low-income and displaced families. So, guess what, MAGA? Again, for those of you that are still here, they're trying to put your application in for the thruple. It's a simple question to ask if you want to join the party. First of all, can you fit into a 42 long? And what's your inseam? Hey now, if you believed the lies that Trump told you, that the Biden administration only authorized $700, then you've been lied to again. Because that's what the allotment is. And again, not some lib's opinion. This is data, okay? This is data. Now, under Biden gives money to illegals. Jim, you don't know what you're talking about. Jim, Jim, tell you what, Jim, you're not invited to the thruple because I'm a sapiosexual, and because you don't know what that means is why you're not invited to the thruple. Natural disasters are really, really horrible. Horrible. I think what we saw, because we've got 4 years under Trump, we've got 4 years under Biden, and how they both responded, and it's pretty damn clear the Biden administration responded to the needs of its citizens in a much more timely, equitable, rapid, organized, coordinated, facilitated response. And Trump was tossing paper towels. I know, Jim doesn't know what thruple means either. All right, so there you go. To summarize, $700 is not meant for rebuilding. It's only a stopgap for essentials. Critics argue it's too small, especially given inflation and housing costs. I think I could make that argument that it's too small. What should that number be? The right seems to think that nobody should get anything, but then they complain about only getting $700, which they didn't get under their president, but they did under Joe Biden if they qualified. It's not automatic. Survivors must still apply and be verified. Isn't that a way to go avoiding waste, fraud, abuse? It seemed to me that that's an easy way to do it, right? Don't forget about our $2 train, friends. If you want to participate to the live goal, never expected, always appreciated. All the various things, you know what to do. I should actually take a moment here to thank a few people. Let me just do that. Let's see. Thank you to Linda Jean from yesterday. I appreciate you. Jess, thank you as well, friend. Appreciate that on the $2 train. Also, Marcy, I don't know how you do it, in all caps. I don't know what it is, but hey now. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. You're very kind. And also to Sophia. Thank you, Sophia. You're very sweet. Julie, Dana, you guys are amazing. Thank you for your kindness. I appreciate y'all very, very much. You guys are fabulous. Thank you. All right. So, in summary, the $700 FEMA CNA payment existed under both Biden and Trump. Okay? But it was used more consistently, quickly, and publicly under Biden. Under Trump, it was often delayed, less well publicized. Now, again, I'll have a thought on that in a second. And inconsistently applied, particularly in places like Puerto Rico. Why would that $700 be less publicized? Do you want to know why it is? Because they didn't want to take any heat for it only being $700, in my opinion. Because then they could say, well, the Biden administration only handed out $700. I don't care if it's not about whether or not you believe me. This is just what the data tells you, right? I don't know how else you can break this down to say which administration handled natural disasters better. There's no denying it. Now, I hope, muted my message again, you don't like facts. What facts don't I like, Catherine? Let's see if I don't like facts. I'll send you an invitation right now. Since you just commented, that means you're in the live and you're being active. You could take a moment to comment. So I sent you an invite. Please accept my invite. I muted your message again. What facts do I not like, Catherine? I don't know who you are. So, there you go, Catherine. Unless you're a bot. Feel free to accept the request. You probably won't, though. I wouldn't either if I were you, but that's fine. Okay, so interesting, though, when you break down the numbers, isn't it? It's very interesting. I want to check True Social to see if there's any response from the president. Mods, can I get somebody to come up and do a quick mod announcement? Is that possible? Probably a bot. Yeah, probably is a bot. Although with that many followers, I don't think so. Maybe not. Thank you, my dear. Since you're in there, thank you, my dear, very much. I'll be right back.
Hey, no problem. Good morning, everyone. It is, gosh, what day of the week is it? Let's keep tapping and sharing so we can keep all the people in here. We've got 1,300 viewers right now, which is just awesome. I'm excited to see that. There's a $2 challenge that's been put down with the to get our live goal today. Someone challenged everyone in the chat to donate $2 to Facts. You can do that through PayPal, Venmo, or Cash App at Factsstillmatter. It's all the same. Follow. Oh, it's Tuesday. Thanks everybody for letting me know that it's Tuesday. It's been a long week already. What was I going to say? And go ahead and if you're not a subscriber, please try to subscribe to us. We're almost at our goal. Looks like we have 265 out of 270 subscribers right now. So once we hit the goal, we're going to do another giveaway. What else do I have to say? It's been a long time since I've done a mug. There's coffee mugs, there's tote bags, sweatshirts, all that good stuff. If you're interested in any kind of merch, I'm drawing a blank right now.
You are good. You did your duty. I appreciate you very much for doing that for us, my friend.
Well, I got to get back to work then.
Okay, have a lovely day. See you later.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye. Okay, so thank you guys. Thank you, bro, for that. I appreciate that. And thank you for the subs. You guys are great. I think we might have hit our sub goal. I will report back on that. There's 1,300 people in there. We're 120 away from if 120 people gave $1, we'd bang out that goal. Thank you guys very, very much. All right. So to summarize, right? Who would you rather have in charge at the leadership position of someone who is responsible for directing federal officials? Would you rather have people in the Biden administration who are competent, who are obviously dedicated to making sure that American people are safe and protected? Or would you rather have someone like Donald Trump and Kristi Noem who just want to lie when they are caught? It's really simple, right? It's really, really simple. It's really simple. You know, I don't even make it political. Just be objective. Don't make it political. Just make it objective. This is the data. This is what we saw. This is why it's important. Right? All right. Let me just check True Social because I want to see, because as we know from our reporting earlier, inflation's up 0.3%. Let's see if there's any response from the White House at this point. No. Nope, not yet. Not yet. Okay. Speaking of communists from California. Hey, buddy.
What's up, bro?
How's it going?
It's going well. You
Good.
did meet your sub goal because this fucking commie from Los Angeles County sent out 5.
Thank you, buddy. Appreciate you very much. Thank you, guys. If we can maintain that number between now and Friday, we'll do a giveaway of merch. Appreciate you. And everybody, hearts in the chat for Obi for gifting subs. I appreciate you, pal.
So let's play a little game because, first of all, you got to stop saying data so many times in 5 minutes because you know how that gets me.
I know. Hey, it's like, I know. I get it.
And I'm out here walking in public, so that's even worse, right?
Sorry. Yep.
Hey,
Quickest way to Obi's heart and his pants is a spreadsheet. Or
like say a ding dong or a Swiss roll.
That too.
Or something from the 70s.
Yeah, exactly. What you got for us, pal? What you got?
Okay. So MAGA that you have in the chat and MAGA in general, I always say they are stupid, they are ignorant. But now we're going to play a little game to prove how this is true. So, Steve.
Yes.
If FEMA wanted to send more than $700 as the first initial payment to immediately bridge gaps for whatevers, right? What body would need to approve the increase in that budget spend?
That would be the legislative body, in particular the House of Representatives. Yep.
And that's an interesting point. So it's almost as if we could say Congress holds the purse strings and not the president.
Indeed.
And now, to further prove how stupid and ignorant MAGA is, in the last 40 years, which political party continues to defund the government, turn around and point at it and tell us that the government doesn't work?
That would also be the GOP, with the exception of the military-industrial complex, ICE, and Department of Homeland Security, etc.
Yeah.
But using DHS funds that are also part of because they also control the FEMA budget, diverting those funds to build, border walls or alligator Alcatraz, etc., etc., etc.
Yeah, and which political party stole money from veterans organizations to pay for the wall?
That would also be the Republican Party, under the direction of Donald Trump. Yep.
So
yep. Amazing, right? Yep.
Yeah. So, dear MAGA, the reason why you're stupid and ignorant is you keep chirping in the comments about things that only your party has destroyed, continues to destroy, and wants to eliminate. But, what about Biden?
What about Biden? So now that I've taken you guys through the FEMA exercise, the allocation of monies, and we know in the direction and the leadership under both administrations, I'm going to play this sound from Christine Noem again, and I hope it puts it into different context for you, MAGA. But just listen to what she had to say when asked questions about why is FEMA not responding.
But the New York Times is reporting that thousands of calls from flood victims to FEMA call centers went unanswered in the middle of this ongoing disaster because you didn't renew contracts to keep call center staff in place until nearly 1 week after the floods. Why did it take so long to extend those contracts?
It's just false. Those contracts were in place.
No, they were not.
Take 5 days.
No employees were off of work. Every one of them was answering calls.
That's a nice pivot. Employees were off of work. Well, even if somebody was off of work, you cut staff because you did not renew contracts.
So false reporting, fake news, and it's discouraging. It's discouraging that during this time when we have such a loss of life and so many people's lives have turned upside down, that people are playing politics with this because the response time was immediate. And if you talk to anyone in Texas that was there, that was a part of this operation, they would say the federal government and President Trump immediately responded.
Incorrect.
Just to be very clear, on July 7th, 50.9% of calls were answered. I mean, does that concern you that only 15% of calls were answered? These are people in a desperate state. FEMA, often the first call that they make, only 15% were answered on July 7th, several days after the floods.
These contracts were in place and those people were in those call centers and they were picking up the phone and answering these calls from these individuals. So that report needs to be validified. I'm not certain it's...
Validified is not a fucking word. Validified. Validified is not a word.
I would like to disposition the validity of those stats, Steve.
I'm sorry, but you are a former governor and now the DHS secretary, and validified ain't a word.
Is there something in the Botox and hair extensions that are causing this complete meltdown? I mean, or what's the effect now called? The
JD,
Mar-a-Lago
thank you.
effect?
You're going to love this one. JD, thank you. It's a perfectly cromulent word. Well played, JD. If you know, you know. Well played. Anyway, I'm just like, it's preposterous. We need to come up with a new word. Hashtag validified. Anyway, we have enough data based on historicals, and the reason that I spend time trying to say, okay, well, let's go back and take a look at the actual data regarding FEMA's response under Biden and Trump. The Biden administration got a B+ to an A-, again, based on data, based on all the key metrics, response time, communication, logistics, preparedness, and the Trump administration got a C+ to a B-. So then you ask yourself, who did a better job? And of course, the right, through their echo chambers, was, well, they only got $700. Hey, can you believe that? They only got $700. Well, they got $700 under Trump too, because that's the law. Well, that's different. Trump gave them gold-plated $700 bills that they can use for an investment for the future. Like, what would they invest in? Don't you want the money quickly? I don't give a shit about my neighbors getting money. I want that gold-plated $700 bill. What about Biden? That's what it feels like.
Yeah.
Right?
Literally, right? And also, may we point out that the main reason why they want to get rid of these federal agencies is because there's to be no scientific effort allowed, because the white Christian nationalists only want the Bible to be taught. However, let's just say the floods were real. So they're reading the Bible and they still didn't learn their lesson.
Apparently.
Yeah.
Apparently.
How about being prepared? How about all of the parables of Jesus coming and telling you, hey, don't wait for something to happen. Take action. Make something happen.
Exactly.
Go help your neighbor.
That's good leadership.
Go help.
What would you rather
the immigrant?
What would you rather have, Mega? So I just want to talk about this particular thing. Just because the argument waste, fraud, and abuse, right? Just because you may not like where money is being spent does not mean it's fraud. Just because you don't feel like we should be spending as much on something does not mean it's waste. Just because there might be an order given to have FEMA at the ready, only to have the disaster not be as bad as initially planned, that does not mean that there's abuse. The issue that you guys have is that you have been told for so long that protecting communities, especially those that many of you live in, is woke and socialism. So instead, if you live in Kerrville, Texas, for example, instead you're going to say, we're not taking that commie money from Biden, because you do that, you're in bed with the devil. We don't need it. We're in Texas. We can figure it out on our own. Multiple offers. There's new reporting that there were multiple offers given to those communities in Texas as part of the infrastructure bill. What did they do? They didn't give the money back. Nope. They just diverted it to law enforcement. Why? Why would they do that? And then now who are they going to blame? They are looking for somebody to blame. Simple question for you, friends. People who want to send their application in for the thruple, right? It's really simple. It's really, really simple.
Also, that money was offered in direct response to continued flooding.
Correct.
Right?
Correct.
So this line of bullshit about, oh, this was 1 in 100 years. Well, how come it flooded just the other day? Has it been 100 years?
It's exactly right. It's a simple question.
It's a floodplain.
Right. Why would if the monies were offered to fix the things that did not exist or failed, then who's to blame for that? Again, I don't like the word deserved. I don't think anybody deserves to die in a natural disaster, but elections have consequences. And you are now seeing the results of your votes and or inaction and or apathy. Okay?
They deserve to take all of the help the federal government is willing to give them. Nothing more.
That's right.
Right? But
that's exactly right.
If you turn it down, we have every right to criticize your actions, because your actions have consequences. And that has nothing to do with the fact that innocent people unalived.
Exactly.
No one is consequences free.
Correct. Neo, does not look like you're able to connect, friend. You can request it again if you want. Sarcastic Steven, New Jersey is to blame for their floods? no one is to blame for the flood, but in Texas, they refused money that would have helped them in preparation for the next flood. And by the way, the people in that county overwhelmingly voted for an administration that was already planning on cutting resources for said agencies that would warn these people in advance. If the same thing happened in New Jersey or in Massachusetts or in Connecticut or in New York or California or Vermont, then the same criticism would apply. You see how that works? That's what's called logical consistency. It's not that hard. It's really not that hard.
Also, capitalism is really the main culprit because we continue to allow people to build where really they should not be building, right? That's
correct.
Backed by science.
That's correct.
Right?
Yeah. Grand Robertos, are you there? Grand Robertos, are you there? I guess not. Okay. That was wild.
That was a pocket dial.
It must have been. Yeah, I'm the progressive in your pocket. Oh, sorry. Shouldn't have done that. Iowa, how are you today, friend?
If you have a phone, put it on vibrate and stick it in Steve's pocket.
There you go. How you doing, buddy?
Hey now. I'm doing very well, actually. How are you, sir?
Doing all right, brother. What's on your mind?
So just a couple quick little points. You already covered one of the issues that I wanted to bring up, where the county declined money both under President Obama and also under President Biden, and as well documented with video evidence. They said it was communist money, which obviously the problem is with Republicans, they're fully willing to usher in fascism because of the fear of communism and socialism without knowing the terminology of any of those three things. But that's another issue. The question you asked is, what did they do with the money? And obviously, as you stated, they took that money, the communist money, and they gave it to the sheriff's department and provided funding for pay raises.
Correct.
Now,
before you go on, Iowa, hold that thought, because this is the sound. Okay, this is the sound we're talking about. Okay, this is Kerr County officials refusing money that was offered by the Biden administration, $10.2 million specifically.
We do not want more of Biden's mandates attached to keeping Biden's money.
But these people are communists. They hate America. They're teaching it in our schools. They're invading the border as we speak. I don't think we should take any money from the federal government because they can't be trusted.
Now, we don't need these funds here. We've done just fine. We'll get by without them. But you spend this money, you're signing a contract with the devil, and the devil's in the White House.
If you vote to keep Biden's money, I will hold you personally responsible and personally liable.
The Biden regime has proven to be tyrannical and anti-American. There is no part of this administration that has the good of America or Americans at heart. We want no part in anything coming down from the federal government.
Nope.
This is Texas, and Texans can take care of Texas.
Okay.
And I don't believe we should take the money. We should not have it. I don't trust our federal government. I don't think that they're truthful with us. And in these days and these times or whatever, we can't afford to make a mistake.
Wild, right? So we're Texas. We can take care of ourselves. Okay, Texas, good luck. Knock yourself out.
So
sorry, Iowa. Go ahead, friend.
No, absolutely no need to apologize. Thank you, actually, for playing that, because that perfectly illustrates the point I'm trying to make. Now, I remember you distinctly saying after the accident, we shouldn't be saying you get what you deserve, which I do agree with to an extent. The loss of life.
Yeah, I just didn't like the. I just didn't like the word. I didn't like the word deserved. I get that was the issue that I had, and I got ratioed pretty bad on that. I just didn't like the word deserved. So, but I own it.
No, I get it, and I know a couple days later you kind of came around more to my line of thinking of I'm not celebrating the loss of life of children, and I don't know of anybody that is. But at the same point in time, you've had children, Steve. How many times have you told a child, don't stick your finger in a light socket, or don't jump off that cliff, or don't stand on a railroad track when a train's coming?
Yeah.
How many times have you told them, don't do it, don't do it, don't do it, and then eventually you just get to that point of, you know what, F it, go ahead, F around, find out, and then when, I'll pick you up, dust you off, and did you learn your lesson? And that's where
that's true.
I'm at right now with that. Is that, you know what? We gave you opportunities. We told you, hey, this is going to happen. You didn't want to listen to us. You called us communists. You called us, Democrats, for examples. Now, here's the really funny thing. They ended up taking that money from Biden. Now, you asked, why did they do that? Do you actually know the reasoning why they kept the money but didn't invest it into their infrastructure?
Well, they didn't want it to go to any more blue states, basically.
Exactly.
From some of the yeah.
Exactly.
Yep.
They're like, oh, well, you know what? We don't want to give it to a blue state and let a blue state get better. So we're still going to take the money, but we're not going to use it for what you told us to use it for. So, again, I hate to say it, but yeah, they kind of got what they voted for. So my sympathy meter on that is kind of low. Yeah, it sucks kids lost. But you know what? Had you taken the money and used it for what we told you to use it for, if it would have saved one kid's life, was it worth it? Absolutely.
Exactly.
So my sympathy for them is very real. And I'm sorry if that comes across harsh, but that's the reality of the situation. They had the opportunity.
That's a better way to say it. That's a better way to say it. In hindsight, I think it was emotional and I responded to that. I just didn't like the way people were saying you got what you deserved. I get it, right? And you guys know me, I probably analyzed it too much, intellectually. But yeah, there was a situation where you were offered federal money under Obama and under Biden to fix the same problem, to fix the problem that you called out in post-flood disaster, that we didn't have a cellular network, non-existent. We didn't have sirens. We didn't have early warning systems in place. All those kinds of things that you were allocated money to use, and because you have been lied to for decades, that Obama and Clinton and Biden are all communists and the deep state, blah fucking blah. So yeah, elections have consequences, and your vote matters. And you vote for the same thing every 2 and 4 years. You vote for Republicans to run your state, and what do you get? You get grid, basic thing like electricity. You're supposed to be this, where Texas strong, everything's bigger in Texas, bigger disasters apparently, bigger failures of infrastructure, bigger senators taking vacations to Greece, and now could it be any more fitting? I don't know if Ted maybe wants to reschedule his vacation time when he takes them, because he goes to Cancun when the power goes out, he goes to Greece when Texas is getting flooded. That's the conspiracy. Ted Cruz did it. He lit the match.
And the last thing I wanted to touch base on is you brought up the whole, and I know you heard it, and I've heard it for 2+ years. Oh my God, Biden only gave him $750. Well, as you've already covered that base, that's the minimum amount for the immediate response, and that's been the same way for I can't even tell you 15, 20 years. That's
it goes back to Obama. They raised it. It used to be 500. They raised it to 700. It's been that way for like a decade.
Right. So it's not anything.
Yep. Correct.
It's not new, but yet they still will swear up and down that that's what only Biden did. No, that is literally all FEMA is authorized to issue immediately. And again,
correct.
How many times have we had this conversation that Mike Johnson himself came out before the election and said, I will not call Congress back to session to vote on additional funding for the hurricane relief. We will wait till after the election to see what we're going to do. So again, as you stated, and the Constitution clearly states, Congress controls the purse strings, not the president, Congress. So everybody that in North Carolina was bitching, whining, crying, and moaning that Biden was screwing them, no, it was indeed Mega Mike Johnson and the Republicans that controlled Congress the last 2 years of Biden. They failed to properly fund FEMA, and then they held it hostage at the election time. Now, That being said, the last point I wanted to make. Speaking of disasters under Donald Trump, remember these big not hurricanes, excuse me. Remember these nasty bouts of tornadoes that hit St. Louis, that hit Kentucky?
Yeah, just
Has
recently.
He even actually mentioned? Has he even mentioned them yet? Because I don't recall him saying word one.
Of course not.
Okay, and has FEMA gone in there yet? Because I have heard zero response about that.
I would imagine they probably have at some level. It's been less publicized, and I think that's part of the problem, right? Because they don't want to be talking about it, because then they're going to be subjected to criticism for lack of response or slow response or whatever it might be, right?
So the hypocrisy, and this is where I have a huge issue with Republicans, is that there's two things. There's two things that they're truly good at: hypocrisy and projection. So
correct.
If you were having a bang up response to a disaster like the St. Louis, which is close to me, it's only about 3 hours from where I live. Wouldn't you be publicizing that? Like, look how good I'm responding to these tornadoes. Look how I'm helping all these people. And Ruby Red, Missouri. And then Ruby Red, Kentucky. Look how I'm handling out here. Look at what I'm doing for you folks. But yet you don't hear the outrage from those same Republicans that cried and vilified the Democrats and Biden in North Carolina, in Georgia, and Louisiana, anywhere else. They bitched and moaned and cried about it. But yet,
but Iowa, the people that didn't were the governors and the mayors of those communities, the Republican governors and mayors. They went on the record to say, actually, the federal response was great. I mean, the Biden administration was all over this, but yet that was not enough for MAGA. Nope. Donald Trump told them that they didn't, that you only got $700. Well, it's the same amount you got under the Trump administration too. You only got it later. So shut the hell up. Anyway, bro, thanks for jumping in today. I appreciate you.
Came out the next morning. Not a problem. Have a great day, buddy.
You too. See you later. It's right though. That's the whole point. We're just trying to call out the hypocrisy, the claim that Sammy, how are you, friend?
What is he?
How you doing? How you doing, Sammy?
Nice hat.
That is a nice hat.
I appreciate a good hat.
Everybody, let's just flood Sammy with some coins. If you guys are in here, there's 1,400 people in here. You guys could hook Sammy up. Sammy does a lot of work for his community. Would appreciate that. If you guys could just hook Sammy up with some coinage, that'd be great. I'll give you guys a couple minutes to do that. Okay. We got you, Sammy.
Now, I know that you're not a fan of my friend Gavin.
No, I'm really not.
He's been going to some interesting podcasts as late within the special operators community. There's a handful of guys that are former special operators, so either Delta Rangers or SEALs, and they have these podcasts. And so Gavin went on one, and he was talking about how California sends $81 billion more than it receives back from the federal government. And then he smacked the dude with the Texas stat, and this guy's from Texas. Texas receives, it was either $7 or $70 billion more than they pay. So Texas is indeed a taker state. And then the guy on the podcast, who's definitely a Republican / MAGA, was like, yes, I independently verified all of these stats are true. So I'm finding it interesting. Oops, sorry, background noise.
It's okay. More reporting from tariff effects on inflation. As we reported earlier, CPI up 0.3% to 2.7%. Appliances up 15%. Other household items up 9%. Furniture up between 5 and 7%. These are the impacts that we're starting to see, right? This is what we're starting to see. Apparently, there's a big push to replace the Federal Reserve Chair. Now, I want to talk about that for a second. I'm glad you're here for this, though, because I wanted to talk about this. We might as well do it now since we're talking about it. The reason I saw that, Francis, I don't know for sure, but that's why I responded to it. Anyway, I digress. The Fed, I think I want to ask this question. Obviously, Donald Trump wants to have a new Fed chair in there, not as an independent body as it's supposed to be, but he wants the Fed chair to take direction from him so that he can claim that he got interest rates down. There is no reason to bring interest rates down now, especially now with the volatility of our economy. So I want people, again, for those of you who are still submitting your applications for the thruple, remember I prefer sapiosexuals, I won't even tell you, MAGA, you have to figure that out on your own. If you want to consider it a kink, that's totally fine. But you show me a brain, not literally, but you know what I mean. Anywho, you guys are convinced that Jerome Powell is the one that is holding the economy back. No. He's the one that is safeguarding it. He is doing what he's supposed to do. Now, Obi, I don't want to go too deep into the weeds on this topic, but is there any justifiable reason where we would want to have interest rates lowered now?
Objectively, no, it would make no sense.
Right, exactly. So the argument then that the Trump administration is attempting to make is that Jerome Powell is not doing what he should be doing for the economy. Now, of course, you're going to say, well, he should be lowering the interest rates because the economy's humming. The economy is not humming. Not at all. Not at all. We have inflation that is up. Now, again, if you were promised the ending of inflation, and remember the data that we shared earlier, the number one most important issue in every single election, no matter what's going on. We know that the Dobbs decision and abortion rights was popular and really important, obviously. Immigration, all those kinds of things, but always comes down to the economy. It's something that Trump ran on. Lowering your prices. I promise you I'm going to lower your prices on day one. You guys heard all the sound. I'm going to lower your prices on day one. Not only has he not lowered prices have gone up, and they will continue to go up. So what's the argument? What's the argument? The
well,
argument
there is no argument. Right?
Exactly. You guys have been lied to again.
People, so we'll go back to our game. MAGA is stupid and ignorant. They don't understand how the Fed as a body works. They don't understand that there are various Fed boards in various cities, and along with them are some of the most brilliant minds I've ever met. Like, really, really sharp people, highly intelligent people, doing work in quantitative analysis and looking at the math and then giving opinions, writing papers, right? This is what the Fed does. There is no one at the Fed publicly agreeing with Trump. What does that tell you?
So here's the statement. Here's the statement from the White House. This is what I was waiting for. This is the truth post from a minute ago. Consumer prices low, in all caps. Bring down the Fed rate now. So for people who are getting their news from Lie Social, you were going to say, oh, consumer prices are low. Why are we not lowering consumer? Why are we not lowering interest rates? Inflation is up 0.3% to 2.7%. High as it's been in a while, as a matter of fact.
Yeah, though still in a good spot.
It is. Yep.
On an average.
Yep.
Right? Now, here's the problem.
Here's the story. The Consumer Price Index, a broad-based measure of goods and services costs, increased 0.3% in the month, putting the 12-month inflation rate at 2.7% in line with expectations. Core inflation picked up 0.2% in the month, with the annual rate moving to 2.9%, with the annual rate also in line with estimates. While the evidence in June was mixed on how much influence tariffs had over prices, there were signs that the duties are having an impact. Apparel and home furnishings prices rose significantly, though vehicle prices fell. Consumer prices rose in June as the tariffs begin to slowly work their way through the U.S. economy. A broad-based measure of goods and services, the Consumer Price Index increased 0.3% in the month, putting the 12-month inflation rate at 2.7. The Bureau of Labor Stats reported Tuesday. The numbers were right in line with Dow Jones consensus, although the annual rate is highest it's been since February, still above the Federal Reserve's 2% target. Excluding volatile food and energy prices, the core inflation picked up 0.2% on the month, with the annual rate moving to 2.9%. But the annual rate is still in line with estimates. The monthly level was slightly below the outlook of a 0.3% gain. So it's the highest it's been since Trump took office, for one.
Yeah.
It's gone up again. So there you go.
So,
there you go. So
when the Fed last met, not that people read the comments from the Fed that comes out in a paper, the number one reason was for not lowering interest rates was the instability that Trump and his tariff back and forth presents. It's unpredictable to understand where the markets and consumers are going to go because we have not yet felt the impact of a policy that, while is a concept of a plan, still has not been implemented, right? So if you have too many unknowns, you can't take an action, right? Because then that could have the inverse, right?
correct.
So, there are recessions and depressions, right? And we have to be very selective about how we approach these metrics, because also, MAGA, the value of the United States dollar is based on the full faith and credit, meaning how we pay our debt on time and the interest, which is something we don't talk enough about. But a lot of Republicans keep trying to say we should just stop making interest payments on our debt, which would then tank the value of the dollar and therefore crater our entire economy. And we would be in a probably decades-long depression.
Probably. Yeah, again, there's only so many levers, like you said. That's part of the responsibility of the Fed to kind of keep things in check. So there's no reason why you would want to lower interest rates now. It's not going to help the economy. It's not. The only reason that he wants to do it is so that he can say, you see that? I lowered interest rates. If inflation is up, MAGA, again, the president just flat out lied to you on True Social again by saying consumer prices are low. No, they're not. They're not.
Oh, and the data for car prices is supported by the fact that manufacturers need to get rid of inventory so that they can prepare for the tariffs. So they want to get all the money off the table now, because what we will see, similar to what we saw during the pandemic, is that there'll be fewer car parts, fewer cars, the inventories will be incredibly low, but that, at this point, is more about self-preservation than anything else, because the auto manufacturers know there's no bailout coming. So
that's exactly right.
They have to make everything they can make now. Also, they have agreements with labor, so they have to be able to muddle through these uncertain times, because, as we know, cars may be assembled here, but the parts aren't built here, nor the machines that put them together.
That's right. Thank you to Julie. Thank you to Nancy. Thank you to Christy, Michelle, Julie, Sophia, Dana, you guys, for participating in the $2 challenge today as we're working towards. Don't forget, we are crowdfunded. Thank you guys very, very much. Also to Lisa, to Linda, and to where is that one? Also to Laverne. Thank you. And Carol, thank you guys very, very much for your contributions. I want to get into this story because as things continue to get, as women are continuing to be under threat based on laws being passed at the federal level and at the state level. There's a story that I need to read. I had to reread this myself because it was just so disturbing. So I'll do my best to kind of take you guys through this. There is reporting about a gentleman who put mifepristone in his girlfriend's juice so that she miscarried. Trigger warnings. This has to do with fetal personhood, and I'll explain it to you guys in a minute. In September 2024, Justin Anthony Banta's now ex-girlfriend reported that he had intentionally added mifepristone to juice and to cookies that she consumed, leading to a miscarriage. Banta had originally asked her to get an abortion, but she wanted to keep the child. Rather than being charged with crimes directly related to his ex-girlfriend, such as violating her and giving her a substance without her consent, he was charged with tampering with evidence and with capital unaliving. This is the first time a person has faced a murder charge in relation to an abortion case in Texas. By charging Banta with M, Texas is furthering the idea of fetal personhood, which asserts that fetuses are people with the same rights as any other human being. These kinds of laws have been around even pre-Roe. For example, Alabama ruled in 2024 that fertilized embryos count as extrauterine children, making their destruction during IVF murder. The idea remained mostly fringe until Roe's fall in 2022, after which states were and are able to make these laws. Worth noting, these laws typically stay away from criminalizing pregnant people so that the right can continue to claim to care about women. The Banta case highlights the growing movement of fetal personhood. Many states have some variation of these kinds of laws, terrifying pro-choice advocates. Laws like this could lead to a woman being charged with unaliving or at the very least manslaughter for miscarrying because their body, quote, caused the death of another human being. According to Pregnancy Justice, 38 states have feticide laws in which a miscarriage or stillbirth could be prosecuted as H-cide. They also can endanger women in medical settings. Doctors may hesitate in emergencies, unsure to prioritize the mother or the fetus. We know that's already happening, like in the case of Adriana Smith, a woman who was kept alive despite being brain dead for the fetus inside of her. Quote, "It's not an accident that the current GOP platform doesn't say that voters should decide that fetuses have rights. It says that the Constitution already protects fetal rights and that the Supreme Court should say so. So I think people leading the personhood movement recognize that voters don't agree with them. So they're trying to find ways to circumvent voters, and that's largely at the moment looking like relying on the U.S. Supreme Court," said Mary Ziegler, law professor at the University of California, Davis, in her interview with Politico. Despite most voters, including most Republicans, not liking the idea of fetal personhood, never mind just the fetal personhood debate, the overwhelming majority of Americans, we went through the exercise the other day, 75% plus believe that women should have rights to their body, that the government should not be dictating that. All right? So again, it's a movement of the people. Remember, the topic of the live was, do your representatives really represent you? So if you select somebody and they go to even Republican, Independent, Democrat, MAGA, again, the number is 75% plus believing women should have control over their body. So here's another issue. Despite most voters, including most Republicans, not liking the idea of fetal personhood, MAGA Republicans continue to push for it. Granting fetuses the same rights as people is a way for the right to get the abortion ban it so desperately wants without actually creating a ban. Fetal personhood expert Mary Ziegler says these laws are being created at the state level to show conservative states demand fetal rights. Take Missouri, for example, which voted to enshrine abortion rights, but Republican leaders overturned the decision of the voters. The state level momentum could eventually help Republicans argue for a federal law giving fetuses full legal rights. So cases like Banta's are a small step to a larger anti-abortion goal. Yep, that's the game plan. So abortion opponents understand the Supreme Court is not likely to recognize constitutional fetal rights immediately. So then the question is, how do you get there? Their plan is to get lots of individual states and state decisions and then use those to make the case to the Supreme Court that conservative states sort of demand the recognition of fetal rights, just as conservative states once demanded the overruling of Roe. Still, all these state laws are being pushed out only because of their effects on individual states, but because they're part of the long game that movement is playing. There are 38 states that have some type of fetal personhood, whether it be homicide, other crimes against the fetus, depends on the age of the fetus, and then assaulting the mother. There are, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 states that do not have any of those laws. Those states include Oregon, New York, Vermont, Connecticut, New Jersey, Delaware, Montana, of all things, Wyoming, New Mexico, and Missouri. No, not Missouri. What state is that? I can't see that on the map. What's right below Iowa? Missouri. So you can decide where you'd like to live, I suppose. So again, it's a full frontal assault on women. This is the attempt to Handmaid's Tale control women. It's just another example. It's just another example of what. Now, California isn't on that list. California does have a law in place, a feticide law in place. It is so disturbing to me to hear things like that. This guy, maybe he almost wanted to do this to, I don't know what the argument is, but he intentionally put mifepristone in his girlfriend's juice in her cookies so that she would abort, and the crimes are not even against her. It's her violation. It's the fact that now, anyway. Yeah, blessed be the fruit is right.
It's crazy.
Yeah, that's one way to put it. Dark Willow, how are you today?
Morning. I didn't mean
Dark
to request. I'm sorry.
That's okay. Thanks for being here. Appreciate you. See you later.
Good one.
You too. All right. Real quick, just want to thank a few folks here. Sonia, here's my $2. Get moving, everybody. Okay. Sonia's angry. Don't forget, thank you again, Obi, for gifting out the subs. And don't forget, there's a gifting goal, guys, if you want to help. Always appreciated, never expected. So a little bit more reporting from inside the administration, because first of all, let's just back up a second. Let's zoom out. Let us zoom out. We have not been able to go for a week. I was thinking about this. A week without some member of either the administration or the cabinet specifically, or whomever it might be, caught in some kind of fucking scandal. Whether it be Mike Walls, who was the National Security Council chairperson, he got demoted because of Signalgate. Pete Hegseth multiple times, Kristi Noem, Tulsi Gabbard, Kash Patel, Dan Bonino. The list goes on. Without question, the most incompetent administration to ever exist. They are just pathetic. So now you're getting the results of that. So there's reporting from Reuters that 2/3, this is of yesterday, 2/3 of the DOJ unit defending Trump policies in court have quit. The U.S. Justice Department unit charged with defending against legal challenges to signature Trump administration policies, such as restricting birthright citizenship and slashing funding to Harvard, has lost nearly 2/3 of its staff, according to a list seen by Reuters. 69 of the roughly 110 lawyers in the federal programs branch have voluntarily left the unit since President Trump's election in November, or have announced plans to leave, according to the list compiled by former Justice Department lawyers and reviewed by Reuters. The tally has not been previously reported. Using court records and LinkedIn accounts, Reuters was able to verify the departure of all but 4 names on the list. Reuters spoke to 4 former lawyers in the unit and 3 other people familiar with the departures who said some staffers had grown demoralized and exhausted defending an onslaught of lawsuits against Trump's administration. Many of these people came to work at federal programs to defend aspects of our constitutional system, said one lawyer who left the unit during Trump's second term. How could they participate in the project of tearing it down? Critics have accused Trump administration of flouting the law and its aggressive use of executive power, including by retaliating against perceived enemies and dismantling agencies created by Congress. The Trump administration has broadly defended its actions as within the legal bounds of presidential power and has won several early victories at the Supreme Court. A White House spokesperson told Reuters that Trump's actions were legal and declined to comment on the departure. Again, legal is one thing, but you've got DOJ lawyers whose job is to defend the administration against the things that they're doing, and they're leaving in droves. That should tell you something, right? And then there's this reporting. I want to play this for you because let me first find this for you because we're talking about the administration specifically and how they are losing staffers whose jobs, staffers, lawyers, people who work at the DOJ, whose job it is to protect the integrity of our Constitution, if that even still matters. But more importantly, it's about protecting the people involved. Because don't forget, the Attorney General is not the president's lawyer. The Attorney General is there to defend the Constitution. The Attorney General is ultimately our lawyer. So I'm going to give you a little bit of insight into the loyalty tests, because now there's reporting that the FBI is using polygraph tests to officially test for loyalty. This was reported just a couple days ago. This has been spinning around for a very, very long time, right? So they want to use, because they're concerned that people are leaking information. They want to make sure that everybody in the administration is loyal to the administration. That's a key component that doesn't get discussed a lot. What are you loyal to? You take an oath to the Constitution. Many of them took the same oath that Obi took, minus the military code of justice. But a lot of them took the same oath. And their oath is to the Constitution. So their loyalty should be easy. Are you loyal to the Constitution? Yes or no? Yes, I am. So then that would apply to everybody, not just the sycophants. Here's the story. Some senior officials who have taken the test have been asked whether they said anything negative about the FBI Director Kash Patel. He is so freaked out about, I think about Kash Patel, right? I think he was probably a guy who wasn't very well liked as a kid, who probably got picked on a lot. He's probably got, just called names or whatever. I'm sure he had racial slurs thrown against him, which I despise, but in the circumstance, I despise them no matter where they come from. I despise them. Here he is now. He gained prominence through his conspiracy theories, his lies, his rhetoric, his bullshit, making promises about this, calling out the deep state, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Here he is now in the handpicked by President Trump to be the FBI director, completely incompetent. By the way, he's upset because he cannot get authorization to pack a sidearm. The FBI director does not carry a firearm anywhere they go. It's not their job. They don't have that. It's not something he is desperate. He wants to be packing heat. How fucking pitiful. How pitiful. How pitiful. That's what he's going to spend time on? Really? Well, getting access to a firearm? So, Anthony, not you. Anthony, I just sent you a request. You said something that I said something racist. I'd like to know what it was that I said that was racist. So come on up and explain it to me. So typically the FBI has turned to polygraph tests to sniff out employees who might have betrayed their country or shown they cannot be trusted. Since Kash Patel took office as the director of the FBI, the Bureau has significantly stepped up the use of lie detector tests, at times subjecting personnel to a question as specific as whether or not they have cast aspersions on Mr. Patel himself. Wow. In interviews and polygraph tests, the FBI has asked senior employees whether they have said anything negative about Mr. Patel, according to two people with knowledge of the questions and others familiar with similar accounts. In one instance, officials were forced to take a polygraph as the agency sought to determine who disclosed to the news media that Mr. Patel had demanded a service weapon. an unusual request given that he's not an agent. The number of officials asked to take a polygraph is in the dozens. Several people familiar with the matter said, though it is unclear how many have specifically been asked about Mr. Patel. The use of the polygraph and the nature of the questioning is part of the FBI's broader crackdown on news leaks, reflecting to a degree Mr. Patel's acute awareness of how he is publicly portrayed. The moves, former Bureau officials say, are politically charged and highly inappropriate, underscoring what they describe as an alarming quest for fealty at the FBI, where there is little tolerance for dissent. Disparaging Mr. Patel or his deputy Dan Bonino would cost people their jobs. Can you believe that? How fucking petty they are? And again, this is why we always talk about how be careful what you wish for. You want to go and you want to criticize the DOJ and the FBI. You guys did that for years. The criticism of the FBI and the DOJ coming from the right has been because they were pursuing crimes and investigating crimes against the president. That is their job. That is their job. Their job is to investigate crimes. Investigate crimes. I live in Fantasyland? Alakazam? Really? No. Fantasyland? No. No, I don't.
Shoots and Ladders is a fantasy land.
Totally is. So this story gets a little bit deeper because now we have the Office of Special Counsel. The Office of Special Counsel basically is created so that you have the ability for whistleblowers within government agencies. Don't forget, inspectors generals at the head of agencies have a responsibility to root out fraud. One of the key components of their job as an inspector general is to make sure that the money's getting appropriated where it's supposed to go. Are they following ethical guidelines? Are they abiding by congressional appointments and appropriations, et cetera? And then we know that it was one of those Friday night massacres that Trump came in and said, I'm going to fire a dozen or so IGs. So why would you do that? If you were being ethical, if you were being above board and fully transparent as the claim, then you would certainly not want to fire people who would would make you be transparent, right? Apparently not. Well, it gets worse because now we have a new appointee to the Office of Special Counsel, and I'll let Jen Psaki tell you about it.
Another independent body that protects whistleblowers, the Office of Special Counsel, which is supposed to operate as a secure channel for federal employees to disclose potential wrongdoing without fear of retaliation. It's really no surprise, I guess, that Trump has nominated this guy to lead the office. Meet Paul Ingrassia. He is 30 years old with barely a year of government experience under his belt. He currently works as the White House liaison for the Department of Homeland Security. And while that sounds important, it is not a senior job in any way, shape, or form. If he sounds a little unqualified to run the 110-person office that for nearly 50 years has been the agency for whistleblowers and alleged ethics violations, well, hold on to your hat because it gets much worse. Back in 2023, Ingrassia worked with the legal team defending Manosphere influencer, accused rapist, and human trafficker Andrew Tate. He posted this picture of the two of them on Instagram with the glowing caption, "Andrew Tate is an extraordinary human being."
Nice.
That doesn't give you enough sense of this guy's worldview, this guy's judgment, where he stands. Here is a sampling of his activity on Elon Musk's X.
Samantha, thank you so much.
On the anniversary of September 11th, Ingrassia shared a video of conspiracy theorist Alex Jones claiming that 9/11 was an inside job. He also said things like, quote, "Being anti-Trump is the biggest dog whistle in politics for anti-white racism." Okay. And last year for Pride Month, Ingrassia posted, "Certain behaviors are righteous and should be encouraged. Others are wrong and should be stigmatized and condemned." As for his writing, Ingrassia has written his fair share of fawning pieces about Trump. He's also argued that January 6 rioters were politically persecuted and that white supremacist and anti-Semite Nick Fuentes has been wrongly censored. I could go on. I literally could go on. There's much more. But I think you get a pretty solid sense of who this guy is. His politics are fringe far right. His judgment and objectivity are very questionable. And he's fiercely loyal to Donald Trump. he is pretty much the last person on earth who should run the office that helps and protects federal employees who speak up against this administration and what it is doing, which is so pivotal to have those protections. And based on everything we've seen Trump and his administration do, that appears to be completely by design.
So, Samantha, thank you so much for your 50 on Venmo. I really, really appreciate you. Thank you very much. Thank you so much. So I think it's really important that we kind of call these things out like we see them. So you get a Christian nationalist, despicable human being who called Andrew Tate a great guy as the head of the Office of the Special Counsel. The Special Counsel agency, again, let me pull up the definition of it. I pulled that up, is designed to be a place for whistleblowers in government. So people who want to call out the administration or ethics or whatever that might be in whatever government agency that they represent. And now you have a person who is an absolute Trump loyalist, a sycophant for Trump. So anybody in the administration, in any division, in any agency, all of a sudden has an issue with something that's ethical and they want to have a safe space to go. Where do they go now? Where do they go? They don't have a place. I pulled some stats on this guy, and Jen Psaki did a good job of covering it. This is what the special counsel does. Whistleblower protection investigates retaliation against federal employees who report fraud, waste, or abuse. Okay. Hatch Act enforcement enforces the Hatch Act, which prohibits federal employees from engaging in partisan political activity on the job. Prohibited personnel practices, or PPPs, investigates unfair or unlawful personnel actions such as favoritism, coercion, or discrimination. Uniformed Services Employment and Reemployment Rights Act, or USERRA, enforces laws protecting the civilian employment rights of military service members, and then political coercion protection, guards against supervisors pressuring subordinates for political support. Oh, I don't know, making sure that every member of the FBI now takes a loyalty test or a lie detector test. This is the person's name, okay? It's Paul Ingrassia, nominated by President Trump on the 29th of May to lead the Office of Special Counsel, the office of the qualifications that I just laid out for you. Federal watchdog agency responsible for protecting whistleblowers, enforcing the Hatch Act, and everything else. Born in 1995, holds a BA in mathematics and economics from Fordham and his law degree from Cornell Law School. Worked briefly at law firm Kasowitz, Benson, Torres with Joseph D. McBride. Served as a White House liaison to DHS and the DOJ early in 2025. Former podcaster and commentator for right-wing outlets National Review, Human Events, Daily Caller, etc. Far-right ties and conspiracies. Represented social media influencer Andrew Tate, an accused human trafficker and rapist, and called him a good guy. Attended a 2024 rally supporting white nationalists, including Nick Fuentes. Promoted 2020 election conspiracy theories and publicly called for martial law after the election loss in 2020, and then described the H Group's October 2023 attack as a psyop in social media posts. White House claimed multiple Jewish groups supported his nomination, but 3 groups denied it, and the 4th later reversed its opinion. Critics argue his limited legal experience and close alignment with Trump suggests bias. Yeah, no shit. He has defended Trump's campaign ideologies, election denialism, ideological loyalty, raising alarms over his potential impartiality. Young and politically aligned, with experience in conservative commentary, administrative roles, but limited prosecutorial or watchdog backgrounds, strong ties to far-right figures and narratives, disputed endorsements, ideological leanings, raised concerns about his fitness to lead a nonpartisan watchdog office. Okay. It tracks. I mean, yeah, that would be the checklist for people who are part of the Trump administration. You need to be either a white Christian nationalist or a right-wing news commenter or podcaster, or you must be propagating conspiracy theories, or you might be next in line for the Mar-a-Lago makeover, or you are just a pathological liar. Can you believe that? A government agency, the person's role within, it's like the Office of Special Counsel. Don't that get confused with people like Robert Mueller or Jack Smith. Those are special counselors that are appointed. It's different. This is the Office of Special Counsel. And their primary job is to protect whistleblowers. Somebody in the federal government says, listen, I've got some dirt. I've got the list. It's in my back pocket. I found it. I've got the list. That person is now what? Has nowhere to go? It's wild, right? Why would we want some sycophant in that position? Gee, I know, because the entire administration is one big fucking loyalty test. You are either loyal to the president and we're going to check everything you do and say, and if you rise up against us, you're out of here. So what are federal employees supposed to do? They want them to quit so they can replace them with more loyalists. Follow the money. Follow the money. Why does it have to be like that, MAGA? Do you understand? Is that what you care about? You care about more about loyalty? I remember having a conversation, I think it was yesterday or the day before with, it might have been yesterday. And I made a comment to say this particular person admitted that I voted for my pocket. I said, do you have a kid? And he said, yeah, I have a daughter. I said, I care more about your daughter than you do. He's like, oh, that's fucking weird. I don't want you caring about my daughter. I'm like, well, I need to care about your daughter because you don't give a fuck. So transparency of government, which is what the right has been bitching about for 4 fucking years, without question, the most opaque administration I can remember. You can't see shit behind the veil here. So they're going to use the fact that Trump will go to a microphone whenever he sees one. Kelly McEnany's talked about it. He is the most accessible president. Accessibility is not transparency. Two entirely different things. Just because someone is accessible does not mean they're transparent. One person doesn't represent others. What? I don't know what you mean, Andrew. You can request up if you want to. But here we are, right? Here we are. We've got FEMA. We broke down the FEMA exercise today, right, guys? By the way, I have to tap out a little bit after 11:15 today. Just some capitalism, and I'm getting a haircut, so that'll be exciting for tomorrow. Man, my life is so exciting. Damn. Wow. Anyway, we broke down the FEMA dollars. So we understand that FEMA was graded extremely highly, B+ to A-, again, from Grok, right, under the Biden administration, and a C+ to B- a C- to, where's the data again? C+ to a B- under the Trump administration, right? So just be objective. Why would you not want to have a person that's in the position to respond to unethical characteristics and or bad behavior within government? Instead, you just want to hire a far-right Trump loyalist? Trump is very accessible to be paid off. Yeah, good point. So it shouldn't be that complicated to just look at the situation you have here and be like, damn, this guy is off his fucking nut again. Another socialist. Andrew, can you just request? We can have a conversation. I don't know what your issue is with socialism. Let's talk about it. I'll be curious. I'll see if you know what it is. First of all, we'll play that little game. I don't think you'll come up, Andrew, because I don't think I would either. But anyway, okay. A couple more things I wanted to kind of talk about a little bit today. Do you remember Lisa Murkowski, guys? Remember Lisa Murkowski, and she had the ability. Lisa Murkowski, 1 of 100, had the ability to stop the big ugly bill. And her argument was that, she went in all hours of the night. She negotiated Alaska being separated from the Medicaid cuts, even though that ended up not happening because that got thrown back in there anyway. But she basically got a big deal for big oil. So she's been cornered by a lot of journalists. Manu Raja, who I really like as a journalist, he managed to track her down. This is just absolute. Just listen to the fucking word salad coming out of her mouth here. This is crazy.
May lose their health care because of this bill.
That was what I was trying to do, along with others, to make sure that that is not going to be the case. And so that's the effort that was made.
Do you regret voting for the Senate passage?
Manu, I did everything that I could to try to improve that bill. Is it the bill that I would have designed? Of course not. But I had a couple choices. Either try to make it less bad, which I think that I did, not only for the people of Alaska, but for the country when we were able to double the funding for the Rural Health Transformation Fund. I think that's going to be help. That's going to help not only these hospitals but all of the 50 states. So we are in a place where we're looking at not only the implications of that bill, but what we have in front of us with appropriations. We just got through a multi-hour markup here. There is a lot that is in play right now that will hopefully advantage Americans when it comes to access to health care. And
but do you worry that
I'm going to keep working on that.
What do you think people would say that it was naive to think that the House would make it better?
I don't think it's naive to suggest that processes like conference committees cannot happen.
Okay, so that was a lot of nothing. And what the right is trying to hold on to now is to say, well, you know what they did? Yeah, well, they increased funding for rural hospitals. And you heard that line in her word salad there. Well, Southwest Nebraska Medical Center announces plans to close, blames uncertainty over funding. The uncertainty over federal Medicaid funding appears to have claimed its first victim in Nebraska. Community Hospital in McCook announced Wednesday that it will close Curtis Medical Center in Curtis, winding down its services over the next several months. Quote, unfortunately, the current financial environment driven by anticipated federal budget cuts to Medicaid has made it impossible for us to continue operating all of our services, many of which have faced significant financial challenges for years. So Tony Bruns, president and CEO of Community Hospital, said in a news release. The budget reconciliation bill the House voted to approve contains several provisions that experts will say will slash Medicaid, which with rural hospitals are more dependent on than urban counterparts. Earlier this week, during a Zoom meeting put on by multi-state organizations United Today, Stronger Tomorrow officials, estimated that up to 6 Nebraska hospitals could be forced to close if the bill passes. We currently have 6 hospitals that we feel are in critical financial state, 3 that are in an impending kind of closure or conversion over to rural emergency hospital models. We would like to see the closures within a year to 2 years. We will likely see the closures within a year or 2 years once the bill is fully enacted. In a statement Thursday, the Nebraska Hospital Association said 45% of the state's rural hospitals are already losing money, and passage of the bill could lead to a $3.6 billion cut in funding to Nebraska hospitals over the next decade. So, they put language like a $50 billion for rural hospitals. But if these hospitals are getting billions of dollars annually in operating revenue from Medicaid, how far is that $50 billion going to go? So I'm just curious a second. I'm just going to look this up real quick. There are 1,796 rural hospitals. These hospitals serve approximately 48 million people in rural areas across the country. So 1,796 rural hospitals. If they're losing their funding from Medicaid, how many of them are going to close? A lot. So we already know that rural communities are underserved in our country. We already know that, right? And the direction from the federal government is to give more power to the states. So if states are already upside down in their budgets, and these hospitals have been already upside down in the red on their fiscal budgets, and they're getting money from Medicaid, and that money goes away, what's logic tell you? Logic would tell you that, guess what? Those hospitals are going to close. Because that $15 billion ain't going to cut it. I have said this a million times. You find me an economic or social argument that is practical, logical, against universal health care, I will delete my account and you'll never see me in social media again. Instead of investing in public health, public education, mental health services, etc., instead of doing those things that the overwhelming majority of Americans want, instead of doing that, Republicans cut Medicaid. And you can miss me with it. Oh, I didn't do that. Just work requirements. You can miss me with your bullshit. The fact that, the way I see it, if one person has their health care removed because of legislation, who is entitled to that health care, if one person, then that's one too many. But nope, that's not going to work for you guys because immigrants, because illegal immigration. Delta, how are you today?
I'm doing good. We've talked before. I just wanted to check in and say that, yeah, currently my husband and I are both looking at losing our jobs. As I've told you before, I work with kids, at-risk youth. They're all Medicaid kids. It's crazy. This is the first time in all the time that I've been there that we're now being told by our directors and stuff, just remember, you're here to save Medicaid money. Used to always be, we're here to help kids. And just in the last 3 months, this is the thing. And it's like, I have a bachelor's degree. I'm making $23 an hour. I'm not there to help save Medicaid money. I'm there to help kids, for what I'm making. And my husband is an RN in a small rural hospital. And, they know who has and who doesn't have Medicaid. And he's like, no, it's over 90% are Medicaid, Medicare. So that's where we're at.
I'm really sorry to hear that.
Right? Unnecessary jobs. What we do is not important.
Well, you know how I feel about that, but I'm really sorry to hear that. These are the impacts. These are the real world impacts. I'm really sorry to hear that.
Well, fortunately for him, we can move and he can get a job as a nurse. I'm not in as bad a position as some people would be. But the fact that we would have to move, the fact that this small community in upstate New York, losing this hospital, they're going to be looking at traveling to Sayre, traveling to Rochester. Those are, hours away. And it's sad. Anyway,
I'm really sorry.
Yep.
Thank you for jumping in today, Delta. I appreciate you. Talk to you soon. All right. Be well. Yeah, these are the stories. And again, it's just it's like when businesses close, it's not just the business close or whatever happens. It's the people around it that the community that supports it. So you think about the little community that's built around a rural hospital, whether it be delicatessens or little restaurants or whatever that might be. All those businesses are going to lose. If those hospitals close, then guess what happens? Those other businesses close too. That's the impact of it. And Alvin, I know you've been chirping all morning because you talk about Democrats don't get it, all the waste, fraud, and abuse that's in Medicaid. Actually, I've studied this, as a matter of fact. And the GAO, who's the agency that would be responsible for identifying these kinds of things, holding government agencies accountable, estimates that fraud exists within Medicaid at around 5%. And the bulk of that fraud comes from administrative and or clerical errors, not intent by recipients. Conversely, the Department of Defense and DHS have fraud rates at around 15%. Medicaid gets cut with fraud less than 5%. DHS and DOD get an increase in their budget, and they have a fraud rate at around 15%. So was it really waste, fraud, and abuse? Really? Or was it just justification somewhere to be able to pay for tax cuts for the rich? Right? So explain that to me. Hang on one second. The kids going to work. Anyway, make it make sense, right? Make it make sense. If you truly care about waste, fraud, and abuse, then why aren't you going after it? Why aren't you legitimately going after it? Why aren't you starting with the Oval Office? Why aren't you starting with the fact that we're sending taxpayer dollars to pay for alligator Alcatraz? Increasing the ICE budget, cutting 40% of the research for cancer, children's childhood cancer, right? Right? No, Kipper does not need another remote to chew on, Jess. Good try. We're cutting that. We're cutting that. But ICE gets a raise. So miss me with your waste, fraud, and abuse bullshit. You don't care about waste, fraud, and abuse. You don't care. You just care about othering people and diminishing individuals who are just trying to live their fucking lives. Plain and simple. Okay, what else have I got for you guys? Did I do that one? I did that one. Oh, okay. Haven't talked about how's the flooding there in Vermont? We had some serious storms. I've had 2 100-year floods in my town in the last 3 years. So where I am, if my house gets flooded, then there's larger issues because I'm on like a little bump. The water comes within 100 yards of my house. I had some damage 2 years ago to my foundation. FEMA was immediately responsive. So there you go. Facts matter. Illegal is illegal. Okay, Slick, you can jump in and have that conversation with me if you want to. Anyway, this is Caroline, and I haven't checked if she's wearing the cross count yet, but this is Caroline Levitt talking about, well, Caroline Levitt.
In your monologue, Jesse, I can't believe I heard stupid Stacey Abrams say that deportations kill democracy. Newsflash, Stacey, wide open borders kills democracy. And that's what the American people voted against. The American public witnessed an open border, illegal alien invasion for 4 years, and they said enough is enough. The vast majority of this country supports deporting illegal criminals from our communities. This administration is all hands on deck in doing that, despite pushback from these radical Democrats at the state and local level. ICE and Border Patrol are doing the work that they swore an oath to do, to remove public safety threats from our communities, to protect our nation, our homeland, and our citizens. And they face now a 700% increase in violence from radical left lunatics.
I could not verify anything that she said other than the fact that she spoke. First of all, to call Stacey Abrams unintelligent is such a wild flex. But thank you for showing your racism, Caroline, along with everything else that you have. We went through this exercise yesterday. We did the breakdown of what the number is, the 11 million that they like to throw out there. 10.8 million encounters. Encounters means that you will literally come in contact with a Border Patrol agent, then a series of events. We went through the exercise. So, it's hard to fight through that noise because it's this, right? Make America Great is this way, over the edge. It's hard to navigate through that noise and all that hatred and all that rhetoric because you have people like Caroline Levitt going on with Jesse Waters and Fox News being the #1 cable channel that there is. And voices like Benny Johnson and Tim Pool and people like that on the right are just echoing this shit over and over and over again. I've shared this with you guys before about the Necessary Conversation podcast with Mom and Dad. All they do is watch. They just mainline Newsmax. That's it. That's all they do. So of course they're going to be told all these kinds of things, and they're so primed and conditioned to just fall into those traps. Because they don't have media literacy. They don't have the ability to understand where the psyops are, right? So on that particular topic, I will use this as a reminder that coming up on Friday, I'm going to be joined by a very special guest, Amir Barger, who is the author of The Price of Nice. This is her latest book. You can find the link in the link tree in my bio. Let me just read you again Amir's bio. Author, behavioral communication strategist, professor, and DEI practitioner. She's an executive vice president at one of the world's largest communications firms, where she advises global brands on equity, trust, and strategy. Nearly 20 years of experience spanning public health, corporate communications, and nonprofit leadership. Amira is also a professor at Cal State East Bay and a guest lecturer at UCSF. She's been recognized as a Woman of the Year in healthcare and named one of the top 50 women to watch. Whether she's writing, teaching, or advising the C-suite, Amira helps organizations move from performative to transformative. I threw out a bunch of prompt questions. We've communicated back and forth. She'll be joining us Friday morning. Time to be determined. Don't know exactly yet because she's on the West Coast, but we'll see. But I'm looking forward to it because it addresses a lot of the things that we talk about here every day. I've got media training, professional media training. I do media training for some of my clients. How to say what you're trying to say in a more clear, concise strategy. I am a communications guy, and I've been a C-suiter, so I live in this world, which is why I was fascinated when I bumped into her on TikTok. So that'll be on Friday morning, time to be determined. So thank you for that, and I'm glad I reminded myself that was happening. Okay, where was I going to go next? Guys, we're $48 away. Can we bang that out? Appreciate that. Oh, Angela, thank you so much. Thank you so much, Angela. We're $28 away. Let's get it done. Let's kick that out. 14 people, $2. 28 people, to $1. Let's just bang it out, and then I can stop talking about it. Okay. Christy Nome, I covered that. Lawyers being fired, covered the hospitals closing. Do I want to go back to the Epstein shit? No, not yet. I will, though. I want to, something that Barack Obama has, actually, let me play this for you guys. This is funny. I like this guy a lot. He basically, what he does is he calls out Mr. Trump's word style, we'll call it.
You know, autism, you go back, I guess, 18 years, 10,000, think of this, out of 10,000 people, okay? 10,000 people, and I'll go in a little different way. Right now, out of 10,000 people, 18 people they're safe. 18 people. We have a statistic on autism that's the worst I've ever seen, and he's going to change it. He's going to change it. It used to be 20 years ago, you just didn't have it. And now it's numbers that are unbelievable.
What was that? What? Hold on a second. Let me do this. Let me see here. I got to find this because it just reminds me, since we're going to call this bullshit out, we had to listen for fucking years for the right.
President Trump.
We had to listen for years. Is this the one? Yes, this is it. We had to listen for years about the right complaining about Joe Biden's mental cognitive decline. And we can be objective and say, yeah, Joe Biden was old and he was certainly in cognitive decline, but not to the level that they'd like to say, where we have direct evidence of this guy losing his fucking shit. So let's take the argument back to them. They want to use it, then we'll use it right back at them. Right? Whatever. Say, your guy's losing his mind. He can't even talk. Never mind can he not mumble. He can't. He gives mumbling a bad name. So this was the question on childcare. Remember this?
President Trump, you talked about how the increase in the price of food, gas, and rent is hurting families. But the real cost that's breaking families' backs and preventing women from participating in the workforce is childcare. Childcare is now more expensive than rent for working families and is costing the economy more than $122 billion a year, making it one of the most urgent economic issues that is facing our country. In fact, the cost of childcare is outpacing the cost of inflation, with the majority of American families of young children spending more than 20% of their income on childcare. One thing that Democrats and Republicans have in common is that both parties talk a lot about what they're going to do to address the childcare crisis, but neither party has delivered meaningful change. If you win in November, can you commit to prioritizing legislation to make childcare affordable? And if so, what specific piece of legislation will you advance?
Okay, so MAGA, I know those of you that are applying to be part of the throuple, I want you to listen to the answer the president was asked. What are you going to do to lower the cost of childcare? To which the president says this.
Well, I would do that, and we're sitting down. I was somebody, we had Senator Marco Rubio, and my daughter Ivanka was so impactful on that issue. It's a very important issue. But I think when you talk about the kind of numbers that I'm talking about, that because look, childcare is childcare. There's something, you have to have it. In this country, you have to have it. But when you talk about those numbers compared to the kind of numbers that I'm talking about by taxing foreign nations at levels that they're not used to, but they'll get used to it very quickly. And it's not going to stop them from doing business with us, but they'll have a very substantial tax when they send product into our country. Those numbers are so much bigger than any numbers that we're talking about, including childcare, that it's going to take care. We're going to have, I look forward to having no deficits within a fairly short period of time, coupled with the reductions that I told you about on waste and fraud and all of the other things that are going on in our country. Because I have to stay with childcare. I want to stay with childcare, but those numbers are small relative to the kind of economic numbers that I'm talking about, including growth, but growth also headed up by what the plan is that I just told you about. We're going to be taking in trillions of dollars, and as much as child care is talked about as being expensive, it's relatively speaking not very expensive compared to the kind of numbers we'll be taking in. We're going to make this into an incredible country that can afford to take care of its people, and then we'll worry about the rest of the world. Let's help other people. But we're going to take care of our country first. This is about America first. It's about make America great again. We have to do it because right now we're a failing nation. So we'll take care of it. Thank you. Very good question. Thank you.
What? What? How many times have we had, I've mentioned this to you guys before, that there are hundreds, if not thousands of scenarios that exist in our country where single mom is out. If she's lucky, she gets her 6 to 8 weeks of maternity leave. If she's lucky, she can find herself some responsible, credible, professional, clean, caring, empathetic childcare facility that she's got to put her newborn in 6 weeks later because she can't get any more time off of work. If she's lucky, she's got decent health care. So she goes back to work so she can have health care, so she can afford to pay for the child care that she has to have so she can go back to work to get the health care, and that's the cycle. Right? Right? And here we go. Here we go. Childcare is childcare. Where is it?
I know words. I have the best words, but there's no better word than stupid.
So the world that MAGA, Subwave guys, you wouldn't mind helping us out. So the world that MAGA lives in now is crumbling, and I don't think they want to admit it. The funny thing about it, though, is the desperation that you see, and I don't even think they realize it. So we started our show today talking about a few things, specifically as it relates to closing the loop on the conversation about the Epstein list and the facts that Ghislaine Maxwell, that she is willing to testify in front of Congress. Ro Khanna, Congressman, submitted a thank you guys for that. Thank you for extending your subscription. Really appreciate you. Ro Khanna, who's part of as a Democrat on the Rules Committee, last night asked for the directive to the DOJ that all files and information related to the Epstein situation be released, and every Republican on the committee voted against it. So why, though? Why? You can't have it both ways. You can't claim that you demand transparency. You can't sit there and claim that you demand or claim that your party is the most transparent administration ever. You can't claim any of these things. You can't make a single claim related to anything having to do with the Epstein files unless you're willing to hold your party accountable. Yeah, Ralph Norman voted. He's the only Republican that voted no. Or voted yes, that he wanted to see the information released. So why? Why is it so complicated? And the last thing I want to kind of get into today is that I was thinking about how the truth, how a lie becomes a truth. And I think we all kind of know that, it's the perpetuation of all the things related to the misinformation, the disinformation. Remember, one of the things we're going to cover off on Friday is the disinformation. Disinformation, in my opinion, is more dangerous because disinformation is issued or stated or reported by people that they know the information is inaccurate. They know it's a lie, but they know that they're stretching the truth. Misinformation would be people taking that information, thinking that it's the truth, and then spreading that through their Facebook chat groups or whatever it might be. So dis being the source, the hub, the start of it, mis being the fire that it spreads like crazy. Thank you, Cookie. We're down to $8, friends. Appreciate you, friend. Appreciate you very much. Ooh, hold on. That'd be 8. So I'm going to give you a few examples before we wrap today of how the lies have perpetuated to the point where how do we come back from it? Because it's one thing to continue to tell lies, right? It's one thing. It's one thing to continue to tell the lie when your entire game and your entire administration is based on one big lie. The question is, how do we regain trust in some of our democratic institutions? And that is a question that I'll be asking Amir's perspective on when she joins us on Friday. Because when you've damaged it as much as has been damaged, I don't know how you come back from it. So let me just give you some examples of some of the crazy ass lies, perpetuation of misinformation and disinformation, and see if we can talk about some of the ones that don't get discussed enough. Like, for example, socialism lies, right? This is an interesting one. The lie: Democrats want full-blown socialism like Venezuela. Reality: most mainstream Democrats support regulated capitalism. I'm not a mainstream Democrat. I'm a progressive. I support the absolute regulation of capitalism, but more so than mainstream Democrats want. And I'll give you an example of that in a minute. But with a social safety net, similar to policies like countries like Germany or Canada or Scandinavian countries, not like Venezuela. Policies falsely labeled as socialist. Medicare expansion, for example. Tuition-free community college. It's present in many conservative-led countries. Amplified by right-wing media and politicians through Trump, through DeSantis, etc., to instill fear of government control, right? Zohran Mamdani in New York City, right? Because he does what? Because he's listened to his voters? Because he says people in his community want affordable transportation, rent control, actual rent control, and then that's considered socialist and communist. And remember, like I said before, the term democratic socialism, and I still have not figured out a better way to describe it. I've heard the term humane capitalism. Okay, but if you spend time having to explain to people what democratic socialism is, then you've lost the plot. Because then you can't talk about why it's important, why it's supporting labor rights, expansion of access to healthcare, universal healthcare, raising the federal minimum wage, taxing the rich, doing away with Citizens United, overfunding public education. All these things that are wildly popular, but you can't have those conversations if you're trying to convince somebody what democratic socialism is. So scrap it. The lies about socialism has been used to demonize any progressive reform, framing public health care, student debt relief, or climate policies as radical socialism. Okay. Lies about immigration. Big one. Open borders. Biden is letting everyone in. Reality: never was, nor will there ever be an open border policy. Border Patrol has recorded record numbers of encounters and removals under Biden. We know that. The border could not be open if that were the case. Again, logic. Well, what about the ones that got away? What about them? Where are they? Well, how would you know they got away if they got away? Well, they did. There's like 900 billion of them. Friend, there's only 8 billion people in the entire world. Well, is that fake news? No, it's like 2 + 2 is 4. What about 2 + 3? That ain't 4. Oh, check the stocks. Okay. What's the Dow? Let's see. The Dow is down 282 points, 243 points. It's 240 points. It's down. I'm not surprised by that based on the economic indicators that came out this morning with the CPI being up 0.3%. All right. Open borders. Biden's letting everyone in. Over 2.8 million encounters in fiscal year 2023 alone, many expedited under Title VIII. DHS has resumed fast-track deportations and enforced asylum limits. Context, global migration surges, climate displacement, and violence are pushing record flows worldwide, not unique to the U.S. Biden open borders, a lie. Again, it gets perpetuated. Remember when I went through the exercise earlier where Trump is still on the plus side in appeal and approval? Immigration, crime, national security, and border policy. Because that's all they talk about, because that's all they have left. That's it. That's all they've got. They can't talk about the economy anymore. They can't talk about anything other than that. That's it. That's all they got. Another lie. Most immigrants are criminals. The reality, studies consistently show immigrants commit fewer crimes than native-born citizens, and it's not even close. Cities with higher immigrant populations tend to have lower crime rates. Asylum seekers undergo background checks and biometric screenings. The talking point, these lies justify harsh policies like family separation, mass deportation, and bans, and are often accompanied by racist tropes. Yep. The Biden economy lies. The economy is worse than ever under Biden. We heard that for 4 years. Reality. U.S. recovered from C-19 faster than any other G7 country, and it wasn't even close. GDP was growing, unemployment hit 50-year lows, and real wages were rising. Inflation did spike globally, but had since fallen to under 3%. So the same people who want to say Biden caused inflation, okay, then what did Biden do to bring inflation down? And they can't answer that question. Misleading framing. Right-wing outlets often focus on gas prices, grocery costs, or selective comparisons to distort overall trends. And they are still comparing inflation to when it was at its peak at above 9%, right? So that's when they compare that to. Not what it was when he left office, that it was lower when Joe Biden left office than it is now. They don't want to talk about that. But anyway, those are just details. Biden caused inflation. Another lie that was told. Inflation was triggered by lots of things. Global supply chain, Russia-Ukraine war, corporate price hikes, stimulus spending began under Trump and continued under Biden, OPEC deal, OPEC plus deal, big one, right? All these factors. Global supply chain, due to C-19, Russia's war in Ukraine, corporate price hikes, greedflation, and then shrinkflation, and then stimulus spending under Trump and then again under Biden. Facts. Facts. All right? Weaponized for election cycles, blaming Biden for worldwide inflation while ignoring positive growth indicators. People want to say, oh, the inflation. You could literally draw a line to the Inflation Reduction Act that the inflation started to slow after that was signed. Okay? Because again, if you invest in certain things, like in your public health or in STAT programs and or welfare programs, you give more capital in people's hands, that helps. And the lessons learned, the Biden administration learned from Obama is that they didn't inject enough money back into the system. I think it was great that the Trump administration issued checks. They had to, right? You had to. So I supported that kind of funding. Could you make an argument to say maybe we didn't need as much additional spending under the Biden administration? You can have that conversation objectively. But the data says that the United States did the best job managing our recovery from C-19 compared to the rest of the westernized world. So, right? Crime lies. Crime is out of control in Democratic-run cities. Violent crime fell significantly in 23 to 24 across most, if not all, of the U.S. Many red state cities like Jacksonville, Florida, or Tulsa, Oklahoma, have higher crime rates than, say, Boston, Chicago, or San Diego. Right? I know, Weber, you're right. That's the thing. It worked. FBI data shows record declines in homicides and robberies nationwide. And again, that talking point works against their entire immigration debate. That if there's 50 million illegals here and they're all committing crimes, then why is the crime rate continue to drop? Right-wing media selectively highlights shocking incidences to paint a narrative of chaos. I won't use that woman's name. Horrible that happened to her, but that's what they're using. They're using things like that. Or they'll come up with stories like they're eating the dogs. I've got that, right?
In Springfield, they're eating the dogs.
Yeah, so there you go. Criminals are being released without punishment. Bail reform impacts are mixed and many soft on crime claims lack data. Studies show little to no connection between reform laws and surges in crime. Many prosecutors still pursue serious sentences for violent offenses. Again, the argument, the crime data tells you everything you need to know about that. Violent crime is down. But the states that have the highest incidence of homicide are red. Always has been. It's always been that way. Used to attack reform-minded DAs, discredit criminal justice reform, and push for law and order crackdowns, often racially coded. So those are just some examples, right, of what the Trump administration and the right-wing echo chambers and right-wing media and evangelicals have been able to do to the electorate, to convince people that all these things are true when they're all just lies. The lies about socialism, the lies about crime, the lies about immigration, the lies about the economy. They're all lies. Every one. Goodbye. I love you too. See you later, sweetie. What time you be home? Okay. Be safe. Okay. Bye. Love you too. Okay. So here we are, right? Living in the world of fucking lies again. All over the whole thing, you guys. Everybody's telling you to be safe. I said, everybody's telling you to be safe. Thank you, TikTok. Okay, so the only way out of this, in my opinion, the only way out of this is part of the conversation we'll have with Amir on Friday, is we have to be able to figure out ways for the electorate to be able to gain trust in reputable media sources again. Okay? Be safe, be kind, be gentle. Okay, sorry, I forgot that one. Anyway, how do we do that? How do we get ourselves in a position where we can trust our institutions again? It's a lot easier for people on the left because we can be critical, because we can analyze data, we can make comparisons, we can lean in on opinion and understand, okay, that's opinion. How does that shape my thoughts on this? Or how do we then say, I have to avoid these traps? I'm going to give you a quick example, right? There was an AI video that was circulating in response to the president of the United States just being a complete buffoon racist, asking the Liberian president where he learned to speak English. You guys probably saw that. The official language of Liberia is English. And then there was an AI video that got posted a couple of days later of the Liberian president mocking Trump, saying all these things about President Trump. That was an AI video. And I saw a lot of people on the left, including friends in this space, that shared it. And I'm like, that's not real. That's just not real. Christine, thank you. Christine, thank you very much for helping us hit our goal today. I appreciate you very, very much. Thank you, Christine. Thank you, everybody, for helping that. That's a perfect example, right? How do we navigate through this? So we're going to spend a lot of time on Friday with our friend Amir talking about things like that. Like, for example, these are some of the things we'll be talking about. How do you define media literacy in today's context? The difference between disinformation and misinformation and why that distinction matters. How has the media landscape contributed to political polarization? What are the dangers of media echo chambers and how individuals can escape them? What drives declining trust in mainstream media and how it can be rebuilt? These are some of the things that we're going to talk about on Friday, because I think that's kind of where we're at. We are sort of in this place now where unless we can figure out a way to develop trust in our institutions again for a large majority of our population, then this is going to continue to happen because it's just going to get worse. It's going to get worse. All right, friends. Let me just do this real quick. I want to thank Carol. I want to thank Kristen. Thank you very much. You guys are all saying the common theme is thank you, Kristen, for all you do. You listen every single day. I really appreciate that. I know we've got a lot of loyal people here who join us every single day, and it humbles me. Thank you to Sarah. Thank you to Chad. Linda Jean, thank you very much, very, very much. I appreciate you guys. And then also over on Venmo, thank you guys very, very much. We've got Christine. Thank you so much. Anne Marie, to Lindsay, to Dana, Angela, Samantha, Savage, Julie, Nancy, Christy, Michelle, Julie, Sophia. Thank you guys so very, very much helping us hit our live goal for the day. I appreciate you. All right. Who are we going to raid, you guys? Where do we want to go? Yes, Lindsay, I did. I got that. Thank you so much. Fed should cut rates by 3 points. Very low inflation. $1 trillion a year would be safe. That's a Truth Social post from Trump earlier today. Fed should cut rates by 3 points. Very low inflation. Very low inflation. Very low inflation. Inflation is up 0.3%. Very low. Okay, I don't know. You guys can figure it out, and it's interesting to watch. Like I've mentioned this to you guys before. We'll rate Olive. We're going to rate our friend Olive. You guys, tell her we said hello when you said it over there. Yes, yes, you did. Thanks, Tiff. How then? Thank you, Amy. How then do we navigate through this, guys? Humbly, we'll help you. Because this is shit. First of all, I grew up in this space. Like I grew up in media. I understand what the pitfalls are. I understand it from a strategy perspective. I understand from a PSYOP perspective. I get it from an advertising perspective, right? I get it. So I'll do my best to try to help you guys. So what I would ask in turn is just to continue to support what we do here. We appreciate all of you. We're going to go rate our friend Olive. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, mods. You guys are the smartest chat on TikTok. I appreciate you all every single day. Don't forget about subscribing. If you haven't yet subscribed to our YouTube channel, please consider doing that. So tomorrow morning, we'll be back here 8 a.m. Eastern time. Tomorrow, we're going to spend a lot of time talking about gerrymandering, redistricting, and how if Democrats followed the same rules that Republicans follow, the House of Representatives would look significantly different. Tomorrow morning, 8 a.m.